Chapter 43-47. Mu Qing suddenly said, "To be honest, you really don't look like a man." Huh? Qin Feiyang turned to look at Mu Qing. What did she mean? Why was she attacking him personally? You don't even care about the mermaid princess. Why are you so pretentious all the time? If it were me, and there were so many girls who liked me, and they were all so outstanding and beautiful, I would definitely take all of them. Tell me the truth, is there something wrong with you? I have a secret recipe passed down in my family. Maybe it can help you. Mu Qing looked at him curiously. Qin Feiyang's face suddenly darkened, and the veins on his forehead popped out. What kind of people did she know? She felt uncomfortable if she didn't insult him for a day. Seeing that the situation was not good, Mu Qing hurriedly took a few steps back and looked at Qin Feiyang warily. A gentleman uses his mouth, not his fists. Wait, there will be a time when you beg me. Okay. I beg you. Help me take a look at the current location of Wang Yu, Shangguan Qiu, Hui Yi, and Master. Qin Feiyang felt rather helpless. All of them had the attitude of someone who could easily defeat him. And he had many acquaintances in the ancient world. For example, Supreme Cloud, Supreme Beast, various emperors, and so on. There was also Yi Cheng and Yi Shui. There were also his former subordinates, Wang Daoyuan, Li Changhe, Lei Bing, Wang Qi, Pan Yunzhang, and so on. But time was limited. He couldn't visit them one by one. And he only had one day. He didn't want to disturb them, so that when they were separated, it would only add to their sadness. Mu Qing smiled proudly and said, "Hui Yi must be in the Empyrean Palace." Not necessarily. It's not like you haven't seen this guy before. Although he was the deputy palace master of the Empyrean Palace before, did he manage anything? He was outside all day long. Qin Feiyang shook his head. This was a very irresponsible man. No. The past is the past. The present is the present. Don't forget, there is someone controlling him now. How dare he be presumptuous? Mu Qing smirked. Qin Feiyang was stunned for a moment before he burst into laughter. Indeed. Now that Shangguan Fenglan was in charge, even if Hui Yi had more courage, he wouldn't dare to act rashly. Mu Qing activated his all-seeing eye. Soon, they found the whereabouts of these people. Yi Zhong and Shangguan Qiu were both in the Divine Land. Hui Yi was indeed in the Nine Heavens Palace, he did not run around. As for Wang Yu, at the moment, he was also in the Divine Land. In that case, we have to go to the Divine Land first. Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment and opened a time passage. After the dragons were destroyed, Yi Zhong took control of China. Of course. Yi Zhong did not have such thoughts. Right now, he only wanted to live in seclusion in the mountains and enjoy the rest of his life. However, he couldn't win against everyone's support. Because he himself was a person of virtue and prestige, and moreover, he was Qin Feiyang's master, everyone would naturally hold him in high regard, and he had no choice but to accept this heavy responsibility. Of course. Supremacy Beast and Supremacy Cloud could not escape either. After all, in today's ancient world, except for Yi Zhong, they had the highest status. Therefore, Yi Zhong had been holding on to them. Now, they were basically the ones who handled the affairs of the ancient world. Yi Zhong had become the most relaxed one. Sometimes. Supremacy Cloud and Supremacy Beast were a little indignant. If we had known that you would not care about the affairs, we would have been the overlords of the ancient world. In fact, Supremacy Cloud and Supremacy Beast used to be ambitious. They both wanted to unify the ancient world and become the only sovereign. But later, after being controlled by Qin Feiyang and experiencing countless hardships, they became indifferent to power and interests. It was also because of this that they did not compete with Yi Zhong in the beginning. Who would have thought that in the end, they still couldn't escape? They did not have a day of leisure and were busy all day long. And with Yi Zhong's character, naturally, he would not separate the divine land from the four regions. Now, whether it was the Ninth Heaven Palace, the Treasure Pavilion, or the giants of the Eastern Tomb, the Western Desert, or the Southern Wilderness, they could freely enter and leave the divine land. Even the disciples of the major forces, as long as they were talented, had the opportunity to enter the divine land to further their studies. The ancient world today could be said to be thriving. Over the years, there had been almost no friction between the major forces. Everyone was united, friendly, supported each other, and helped each other, allowing this land to enter an unprecedented period of peace. Of course, no matter how many years had passed, everyone would not forget these few people. These people were Qin Feiyang, Frenzy, Qin Batian, and Lu Xingyang. The ancient world could be what it was today all because of them. The Divine Land. The former Divine Dragon Island had long been reduced to ashes. Now it was a mountain with lush vegetation and full of vitality. It was in the heart of the mountain. It was the former central area of the Divine Dragon Island. In the mountain, there was an inconspicuous small wooden building. The wooden building was old and mottled, but very neat and clean. Around it, there was a large vegetable garden and an orchard. An old man with white hair was standing in the orchard at this moment, wearing plain clothes, looking like an ordinary old man who was constantly trimming the withered branches and leaves. This person was Yi Zhong. Swish. Suddenly, a space-time passage appeared. Yi Zhong sensed the aura of the space-time law and could not help but put down the work in his hand and turned his head to look suspiciously. This seems to be the power of the law. He stared at the space-time passage with a trace of shock in his eyes. But soon, this shock was replaced by bewilderment. Because two familiar auras came from the space-time passage. This aura, Yi Zhong's heart suddenly tensed up. Standing under the fruit tree, he stared at the space-time passage. Finally, two familiar figures walked out of the space-time passage. Feiyang? Mu Qing? Yi Zhong was stunned on the spot. How could these two people appear in front of him? He must be dreaming. He slowly raised his hand, grabbed his arm, and suddenly twisted it hard. A sharp pain swept over. It hurts. It's not a dream. Master, what are you doing? Seeing this scene, Qin Feiyang hurriedly ran up and helped to rub Yi Zhong's arm. Looking at the young man standing in front of him, looking at the young man's concern for him, Yi Zhong finally confirmed that this was not a dream. This kid really came back. Greetings, Elder Yi. Mu Qing also stepped forward and bowed in greeting. Good, 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 Yi Zhong nodded repeatedly, looking at Mu Qing for a moment, and then looking at Qin Feiyang for a moment. Tears suddenly fell down. Master, why are you still crying? Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. Yi Zhong knocked Qin Feiyang's head fiercely and said angrily, I see that you brat came back alive, can't I be happy? Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded, rubbing his forehead, and his face was full of gratitude. This was his concern for him. All these years, his master must have been worried about him in the ancient world. Even after so many years, this old man still treated him like a child and cared for him. It's good that you're back, it's good that you're back. Come, let me see if you've changed after all these years. Yi Zhong's tears flowed down his face. These were indeed tears of joy. He pulled Qin Feiyang to the stone table next to him and waved to Mu Qing, saying, Silly boy, what are you still standing there for? Come and sit down quickly. Silly boy, Mu Qing murmured. In his heart, there was also an inexplicable feeling. He had heard the words silly boy when his father was still alive. This feeling that he had not felt in a long time caused his eyes to heat up. However, he didn't want to lose too much face, so he turned his head, wiped away the tears that were about to fall, walked to the stone table with a smile, and sat opposite Qin Feiyang and Yi Zhong. Yi Zhong's trembling hands firmly grasped Qin Feiyang's hand, looked up and down, left and right, and carefully sized him up for a long time, nodded and smiled. There's not much change, Just a little more vicissitudes. Of course. I'm already so old now, I'm afraid that the younger generation of the ancient world has already called me an old antique. Qin Feiyang laughed. Brat, in front of me, you still dare to say that you're old? Yi Zhong patted Qin Feiyang's head and said with a smile, but it's true, in the eyes of many juniors now, you're already an ancestor-level person. Qin Feiyang rubbed his head. There was no other way. Although he didn't want to admit it, his age was indeed not young. Yi Zhong wiped away his disappointing tears and turned to look at Mu Qin. Mu Qin hurriedly said, "Don't look at me, I'm still very young, and I haven't experienced any vicissitudes." Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched, looked at Mu Qin strangely, and said, "Why do I suddenly find that your skin is thicker than that of the white-eyed wolf?" "This is the truth." Mu Qin pursed her lips. "Yes. It's the truth that you're thick-skinned." Qin Feiyang nodded. "What nonsense are you talking about?" "I said that I'm young, and that's the truth." Mu Qin glared at him. Looking at the two quarreling, Yi Zhong didn't say anything, and just looked at them silently, his face full of love. "Wait." Suddenly, he seemed to think of something, turned to Qin Feiyang and asked, "Why don't I see the lunatic and the white-eyed wolf?" "They won't. Don't be nervous. They're fine." Qin Feiyang hurriedly comforted him. In front of Yi Zhong, he didn't dare to joke. If he said that something had happened to the lunatic and the white-eyed wolf, Yi Zhong would definitely be extremely sad. "They're fine?" Yi Zhong was slightly taken aback and frowned. "Then where are they?" "Are they still in the sky cloud realm?" "You even know about the sky cloud realm?" Qin Feiyang was surprised. Logically speaking, Yi Zhong should only know about the fourth level of the miracle. "Do you really think that this old man hasn't seen the world?" Yi Zhong rolled his eyes at him and said with a smile, "These years, at the end of the year, this old man will take Shui, to the Great Qin to visit your parents." "Huh?" Qin Feiyang and Mu Qin looked at each other. Every year at the end of the year, Yi Zhong and Yi Shui, would go to the Great Qin. This was too unexpected. Yi Zhong said with a smile, "You're this old man's disciple, and they're your family." "We're a family, and a family must visit each other more often." "That's true." Qin Feiyang laughed dryly. Yi Zhong said, "Every time we go to the Great Qin, we need the fire python's help, so he told us a lot about you." "So that's how it is." Qin Feiyang suddenly understood. Yi Zhong asked, "That lunatic and the white-eyed wolf, are they going directly to the Great Qin now?" "No. Time is tight, so they've all gone to visit their friends and family. We'll meet up at the Nine Heavens Palace tonight and have a good gathering." Qin Feiyang smiled. Yi Zhong nodded in realization and breathed a sigh of relief. He said with a smile, "This old man knew that you guys are all lucky people, so there definitely won't be any accidents." "Wait a minute." But before he finished speaking, Yi Zhong suddenly frowned and looked suspiciously at Qin Feiyang, asking, "Time is tight, what do you mean?" Facing this question, Qin Feiyang and Mu Qin looked at each other, not knowing if they should tell Yi Zhong. Chapter 43-48. What's wrong? Yi Zhong looked at the two of them suspiciously. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and said with a smile, "Actually, it's nothing. We just have a lot of things to deal with, so we can't stay in the ancient world for long." Yi Zhong asked, "Are you in a hurry to return to the Great Qin?" "Not really. Let's put it this way. This time, we only have 3 days to come back. After 3 days, we must return to the sky cloud realm." Qin Feiyang said. Originally, they had to return to the Divine Kingdom, but Yi Zhong definitely didn't know the situation in the Divine Kingdom, so it was better not to say it, lest he worry about them. 3 days? Yi Zhong was stunned. This was too hasty. What could they do in 3 days? Qin Feiyang said with a smile, "Just think of it as us giving ourselves 3 days off." Yi Zhong nodded, but suddenly his face changed, and he asked, "Did something big happen in the sky cloud realm?" This time, you took the time to come back. Are you going to tell us something? No, no. Qin Feiyang hurriedly waved his hand. Sure enough. Some things couldn't be said. Otherwise, everyone would be worried about him. Then what's going on? Yi Zhong frowned. It wasn't easy to come back, but in the end, they only had 3 days. 3 days, in the blink of an eye, it had passed. They didn't even have time to gather. This, you really don't have to worry. In fact, the situation in the Sky Cloud realm is a little unstable now, and we need someone to oversee it. Now, our strength is already the strongest in the Sky Cloud realm, so the Sky Cloud realm can't leave us for the time being. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly and tried his best to comfort him. The strongest? Yi Zhong was stunned. Of course. Qin Feiyang nodded and pointed to Mu Qing next to him, saying, "If you don't believe me, you can ask him." Yi Zhong looked at Mu Qing. Mu Qing glanced at Qin Feiyang and nodded. He didn't lie to you about this. Our current strength has already surpassed the older generation of the Sky Cloud realm. We are indeed the strongest. After receiving Mu Qing's reply, Yi Zhong finally believed Qin Feiyang's words. He nodded and said in a small voice, "Not bad. You're worthy of being the talent I value." Ha! Qin Feiyang laughed dryly and turned to look at the vegetable garden and orchard around him. In the vegetable garden, the green vegetables were like jade under the nourishment of the soul vein and crystal vein, releasing vitality and vitality. In the orchard, there were all kinds of fruit trees. Some fruit trees were blooming. Some fruit trees had already borne fruit. The fragrance of fruits could be smelled from afar. Why didn't I think of Yi Cheng and Shui? Qin Feiyang asked. Yi Zhong chuckled. They're different from me. I'm already an old man, but they're still young, so they're all busy outside. Qin Feiyang said, I guess their status in the ancient realm isn't low now. The predecessors plant trees, and the descendants enjoy the shade. This is all thanks to you. Yi Zhong waved his hand. If it weren't for Qin Feiyang and the madman leading many experts to destroy the divine dragon island and destroy the dragons, how could Yi Cheng and Yi Shui have today's achievements and status? It could be said that it was all thanks to them. I can't say. If they don't have the ability, no matter how good their relationship with me is, the world won't believe them. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. That's a must. Whether it's Yi Cheng or Shui, they're all outstanding. Yi Zhong laughed loudly, his brows full of pride. What about the Beast Sovereign and the Cloud Sovereign? Are they doing well now? Qin Feiyang asked. They're doing well. They're now in charge of the affairs of the Human Emperor Palace. Yi Zhong nodded. The Human Emperor Palace? Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing looked at each other, their faces full of suspicion. Which force was this? They had never heard of it before. Back then, when you left the ancient realm, I gathered the Beast Sovereign, the Cloud Sovereign, and the Divine Emperors to discuss the future development of the ancient realm. The Beast Sovereign suggested that since the dragons had been destroyed, the Dragon God Palace and the Dragon-Slaying Palace shouldn't continue to exist. Because both the Dragon God Palace and the Dragon-Slaying Palace are related to the dragons, so after our discussion, we unanimously decided to disband the Dragon-Slaying Palace and the Dragon God Palace from then on. But we must continue to cultivate the talents of the ancient realm. Therefore, we built a new Human Emperor Palace. Now, the Human Emperor Palace is the only cultivation holy land in the Divine Land. Yi Zhong explained. I see. Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing nodded in understanding. This old man is not talented, but I was pushed to the position of Lord of the Human Emperor Palace by everyone. The Beast Sovereign and the Cloud Sovereign are the Vice Lords of the Human Emperor Palace. As for the Divine Emperors and Divine Generals of the Dragon-Slaying Palace, they are now holding important positions in the Human Emperor Palace. Yi Zhong smiled slightly. Qin Feiyang nodded and said with a smile, You are too modest. You being the lord of the human emperor palace is what everyone wants. Don't talk nonsense. If we are talking about what everyone wants, it's you and lunatic. Because back then, you contributed the most in the battle against the dragons, but you have ambitions in your hearts. The ancient realm can't keep you. Yi Zhong shook his head and sighed. What ambitions can we have? We were forced to go to the sky cloud realm. Moreover, you know that I have no interest in power. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. If he was interested in power, he would have succeeded the throne when he was in the Great Qin. Of course. If he had succeeded the throne at that time, he definitely wouldn't have achieved what he had today. I know. But then again, although you have been away for so many years, the beings of the ancient realm haven't forgotten you. You can go to the human emperor palace now. There are 2 statues on both sides of the human emperor palace's gate. One is you, and the other is lunatic. Every disciple who enters the human emperor palace for the first time has to bow to your statues. Yi Zhong said with a smile as he brewed tea. How could he not be proud to have such outstanding disciples? Is it that exaggerated? Qin Feiyang was stunned. There are even more exaggerated. Now, many people run to your statues to pray when they encounter difficulties. Some ask for blessings, some ask for peace, and some even ask for children. In short, everyone has now worshipped you as gods. Yi Zhong said. Children? The corner of Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched. He could understand asking for blessings and peace, but asking for children. He wasn't the child giving guanyin. This was a little ridiculous. It's not just the human emperor palace. Basically, all the big and small cities in the ancient realm have your statues. So now, even a 3-year-old child can recognize you. Yi Zhong chuckled. Qin Feiyang said in surprise, so, we have to change our appearances when we walk in the ancient realm in the future? If you don't want to cause a stir, you do have to do this. Yi Zhong said. What's the difference between this and the sky cloud realm, black tortoise realm, Great Qin, and Forgotten Continent? Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. Isn't this a good thing? Because this way, you can get the power of faith as soon as possible. Mu Qing said telepathically. Qin Feiyang was stunned. Mu Qing's words made sense. The power of faith was obvious to all. Although the Great Qin, Forgotten Continent, Ancient Realm, Black Tortoise Realm, and Sky Cloud Realm couldn't compare to the Divine Kingdom, the power of faith that was born when they were added together couldn't be underestimated. What are you thinking about? Yi Zhong looked at him curiously. Nothing. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and took out exquisite tea jars, placing them on the stone table in front of him. This was the divine tea that he specially asked Fire Lotus to prepare for him last night. There were 2 caddies of each type of divine tea. There were also many Bodhi divine tea and Bodhi fruits. Because he knew that Yi Zhong liked to drink tea, he prepared these tea leaves as a gift to this old man. If it were someone else, he definitely wouldn't be willing. What's this? Yi Zhong was suspicious. You'll know when you open it. Qin Feiyang smiled. Puzzled, Yi Zhong opened a can of tea leaves. A rich tea aroma immediately greeted him. Every tea leaf inside was like a precious jade, sparkling and translucent. This is, although Yi Zhong hadn't seen divine tea before, he could tell that it was extraordinary at a glance. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, these are all divine teas, and there are even supreme-grade divine teas. There are more than 20 varieties, enough for you to drink for many years. Supreme-grade divine tea? Yi Zhong was stunned. And there were more than 20 varieties? How incredible. Back then, Qin Feiyang had gotten 20 varieties from Jijiu. In addition to the ancient dragon god tea and a few divine teas from Longchen, he indeed had more than 20 varieties now. Are you satisfied with this gift? Qin Feiyang chuckled. Yes. Very. I'm even more satisfied than giving this old man a few sovereign weapons. Yi Zhong smiled happily. For someone who loved tea, the value of a sovereign weapon couldn't compare to the divine tea. It was the same for someone who loved wine. For example, if a sovereign weapon and a jar of peerless divine wine were placed in front of Little Rabbit, she would definitely choose the divine wine. I'm glad you like it. Qin Feiyang chuckled, took a sip of the tea that Yi Zhong had brewed, and asked, "Is Wang Yuer in the divine land now?" "That girl is indeed in the divine land now, and she's in the human sovereign palace. She's the most outstanding disciple there." At the mention of Wang Yuer, Yi Zhong's face was full of praise. The most outstanding disciple? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Yes. When she entered the human sovereign palace, she showed extraordinary talent. I thought she was a genius born in the ancient world. But one year, when I took Shui, to the great Qin to visit your parents, I mentioned Wang Yuer by chance. In the end, your parents told me that Wang Yuer was from the Forgotten Continent. And she had a relationship with you before. Yi Zhong shook his head with a smile. Mu Qing looked at Qin Feiyang mockingly and said, "Look, even you know what happened between you and Wang Yuer." Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly and looked at Yi Zhong, saying, "Master, I've made it clear to her that she's my younger sister from now on. So, don't mention this to outsiders in the future, lest it causes unnecessary misunderstandings." Do you think I'm stupid? I definitely won't talk nonsense. But to be honest, this little girl is not only beautiful, but also talented. Now, she's recognized as a goddess in the human sovereign palace. I don't know how many young talents are pursuing her. But why don't you like her? Yi Zhong was very puzzled. Chapter 43-49. She's such an outstanding woman. There's no man in the world who wouldn't like her. In the past, if it weren't for various reasons, we might have already been together. So, I can only say that we're not fated to be together. Moreover, I don't want to be a man who has multiple wives. Qin Feiyang shook his head. It's indeed good to be responsible for your relationship. But remember, even if you don't like her, you can't hurt the woman who likes you. Yi Zhong reminded. I know that. Whether it's you, or Shengguan Qiu, I'll do my best to reduce the harm to them. Qin Feiyang said. That's good. Yi Zhong smiled and asked, only 3 days. How many days do you plan to stay in the ancient world? Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment and said apologetically, I'm preparing to return to the great Qin Empire tomorrow morning. All right. I'm already very satisfied that you can come to visit me now. Go back and spend more time with your family. After all, it hasn't been easy for them to raise you all these years. Yi Zhong smiled. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. Yi Zhong smiled and said, if you're going to the human emperor's palace to visit Wang Yuer, you should also visit your younger siblings while you're at it. What? Younger siblings? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Yes. Your younger siblings are also in the human emperor's palace now. Yi Zhong nodded. This, Qin Feiyang was startled. He asked suspiciously, which younger brothers and sisters? How many younger siblings can you have? It's just Qin Li, Qin Xian, Qin Yun, Qin Wan, Qin Ji, Qin Yi, and Qin Yi. Yi Zhong was speechless. Huh? Qin Feiyang said in shock, they've already come to the ancient world? Yes. The first time I went to Great Qin, they insisted on coming to the ancient world to experience it, but your parents did not allow it, saying that they were too young. Later on, when I went the second time, I didn't plan to bring them, but in the end, they all secretly followed me. When I entered the divine ruins and found them, they were all begging for mercy. In the end, I had no choice but to bring them with me to the ancient world. Yi Zhong smiled bitterly. Do my parents know? Qin Feiyang asked. Of course. At first, your parents objected. On one hand, it was because they were too young. On the other hand, they didn't want them to take risks outside. Wouldn't it be better to live a normal life? In the end, seeing that I really couldn't control the hearts of these little fellows, I simply let them go and let them go. Yi Zhong said. Yeah. How nice would it be to live a normal life? These fellows don't know how lucky they are. Qin Feiyang shook his head and sighed. He dreamed of living such a life, but in his life, there were too many things that were beyond his control. Actually, it's not their fault. After all, they are all young people. They definitely want to go out and explore. Besides, with such an outstanding brother like you, how could they be willing to be ordinary? Yi Zhong shook his head and smiled. So, it's still my fault? Qin Feiyang was stunned. You can say that. Yi Zhong looked at him mockingly. Qin Feiyang had a helpless look and asked, what about Qin Haotian? Don't tell me he also came to the ancient world? He wants to, but as the current emperor of the great Qin dynasty, he can't leave at all. Yi Zhong shook his head. That's good. Qin Feiyang breathed a sigh of relief. He had high hopes for this younger brother of his. Moreover, even if he didn't go out to explore, he was confident that Qin Haotian's cultivation would not lose to anyone. Qin Feiyang said with a smile, then these little guys have caused you a lot of trouble all these years. They really haven't. On the contrary. These little guys are very worrisome. And until now, no one knows that you are their brother. In other words, they didn't rely on any relationship with you. The achievements and status they have today are all earned by their own efforts. Yi Zhong hurriedly waved his hand. What achievements and status can they have? Qin Feiyang pursed his lips. You're underestimating them. Let me tell you, their bloodline power has already returned to their ancestors. And they are not arrogant or rash. All of them are very desperate because they don't want to lose face for you. Yi Zhong shook his head. Bloodline reversion? You mean, they already have the bloodline power of the purple gold divine dragon? Qin Feiyang was surprised. Yes. Yi Zhong nodded and said with a smile, it's unexpected. It is indeed unexpected. Qin Feiyang whispered. In the past, he had always thought that only Qin Haotian could return to his bloodline, and Qin Li and the others should not have the potential. He did not expect that all of them would succeed. Wait a minute. All of them succeeded, this did not seem to make sense. Back then, when he was in the Great Qin, he had many brothers and sisters, but other than him, there was not a single person who had returned to their bloodline. Why were all his brothers and sisters returning to their bloodline now? Mu Qing said with a voice transmission, could it be related to Ji Tianyue? Ji Tianyue, Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered as he looked at Yi Zhong and asked, when did their bloodline return to their ancestors? Yi Zhong thought for a moment and said, it seems to have been these years. They transformed into purple gold divine dragons one after another. These years? Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing looked at each other. It seemed that it really had something to do with Ji Tianyue. Then, have they returned to the Great Qin all these years? Qin Feiyang asked again. Definitely. Every 1 or 2 years, they will go back to visit their families at the end of the year. Yi Zhong nodded. Then, have you seen this person? Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and Ji Tianyue's image appeared. Yi Zhong looked up and immediately had a look of surprise on his face. He asked, you know her? Looking at Yi Zhong's reaction, Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing understood. The bloodline return of these brothers and sisters must be due to Ji Tianyue. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. How do you know her? Yi Zhong looked at the two of them suspiciously. Qin Feiyang asked, don't you know her identity? Identity? What identity? The last time I went to the Great Qin, I was very puzzled when I saw her. Because I've never seen her before. At that time, I even asked your parents, but even they didn't know this person's identity. Even your grandfather and great-grandfather didn't know. Yi Zhong shook his head. In that case, she didn't reveal her identity to father and the others. Qin Feiyang muttered. I think she didn't want to cause any sensation. Mu Qin guessed. Qin Feiyang said, although she didn't reveal her identity, she definitely can't cut off the bloodline connection with the Qin clan. You know this? Your great-grandfather told me about this last time. He said that every time he saw this woman, he could feel a kinship that was thicker than water. Yi Zhong said. Of course. Because great-grandpa is her biological grandson. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. What? Emperor Hong is her grandson? Yi Zhong suddenly stood up, his face full of shock. Yes. Over the years in the Sky Cloud realm, I've also found out the origin of the Qin clan. The origin of the Qin clan is in the Sky Cloud realm. And the ancestor of the Qin clan is the leader of the human race in the Sky Cloud realm, the human emperor, but he has been dead for many years. The woman you're talking about is called Ji Tianyue, and she is the wife of the human emperor. My ancestor, Qin Badian, is the son of her and the human emperor. So, as the descendant of my ancestor, Emperor Hong is naturally the grandson of Ji Tianyue and the human emperor. Qin Feiyang explained. So that's how it is. I didn't expect that the Qin clan actually originated from the Sky Cloud realm. And the ancestor of the Qin clan is too powerful, he is the leader of the human race. Yi Zhong was shocked. At first, I was also quite surprised. To tell you the truth, Ji Tianyue's true form is the purple gold divine dragon. So, our purple gold dragon blood is inherited from her. Qin Feiyang smiled. The purple gold divine dragon. Yi Zhong was shocked again. The legendary purple gold divine dragon actually existed in the world. And it was once right in front of him. What a blind man. How could he not recognize such a great figure? Qin Feiyang sighed. These things are quite complicated. I don't think 3 days and 3 nights will be enough. Anyway, you just need to know her identity. Yi Zhong nodded and slowly returned to the stone bench to digest the shocking news. All right. I'll go see Sheng Wanqiu, Wang Yu, and those little guys first. We'll go to the 9th Heaven Palace in the evening and join the others. You can call Yi Cheng, Shui, Supreme Beast, and Supreme Cloud. Qin Feiyang got up and smiled. All right. If you go to the Human Emperor Palace today, you can see a wonderful battle. Yi Zhong said. A battle? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Yes. Every year, the Human Emperor Palace will hold a competition between disciples, and the rewards will be generous. Wang Yu won't necessarily participate, because her cultivation base is already at the half-step imperishable level. She's already far above the other disciples, but your siblings will definitely participate. Yi Zhong nodded. She has reached the half-step eternal realm? As soon as he said that, Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing were both stunned. Yes. And it seems that she has comprehended a law. Although she is now a disciple of the Human Emperor Palace, her status in the Human Emperor Palace is comparable to the ordinary elders. Yi Zhong laughed. Not bad. Mu Qing nodded. Wang Yu was different from them. They were adventuring in the outside world and had obtained many fortunes and opportunities. Moreover, they had a time array that lasted 5,000 years. But Wang Yu had always been in the Great Qin. Even if she entered the ancient realm now, the resources of the ancient realm were definitely not comparable to those of the Sky Cloud realm and the Black Tortoise realm. To be able to reach the half-step eternal realm in these years was already very impressive. Suddenly, Mu Qing turned to look at Qin Feiyang and asked, she seems to have opened the gate of potential, right? Even if she hasn't opened it completely. Moreover, to be able to comprehend a law at the half-step eternal realm, even you can't compare to this kind of comprehension. Qin Feiyang laughed. TSK, Mu Qing's face was full of disdain. What was the use of having good comprehension? Wasn't he stronger than this woman now? Something came up at the last minute, today and tomorrow, 2 chapters guaranteed. Chapter 4350. After bidding farewell to Yi Zhong, Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing opened the spacetime tunnel and left. Holy Dragon City. This was one of the largest cities in the northern region of the Divine Land. It was also the location of the Treasure Pavilion. Back then, when Shengguan Xiu had just entered the Divine Land, Venerable Cloud had arranged for him to stay in Holy Dragon City. However, at that time, Venerable Cloud had wanted to use Shengguan Xiu to threaten Qin Feiyang. Venerable Cloud was the Treasure Pavilion's chief pavilion master. She had used the Treasure Pavilion's resources to secretly assist the Dragon Slayer Palace. It could be said that, without the Treasure Pavilion's resources, the Dragon Slayer Palace would not have been able to develop so quickly. After all these years, Holy Dragon City was larger and more prosperous than before. In the center of the city, there was a magnificent building that stood tall and majestic. Above the gate, the words, Treasure Pavilion, were written with iron and silver, exuding a strong aura. The Treasure Pavilion was still the largest trading place in the ancient world. It was located in all the major cities. As long as you had enough wealth, there was nothing you could not buy here. And now, after Venerable Cloud became the Vice Palace Master of the Human Emperor Palace, the Treasure Pavilion's status in the ancient world was even higher now. Of course. Now, the Treasure Pavilion had officially become a part of the Human Emperor Palace. And now, the person in charge of the Treasure Pavilion was Shengguan Xiu. At this moment, two ordinary-looking young men entered Holy Dragon City. They were Qin Feiyang. They walked on the streets, looking at the passers-by and the shops on both sides of the street with a faint smile on their faces. Compared to the cruel and bloody Holy Dragon City of the past, it was peaceful now. They could even see some well-dressed rich people taking the initiative to help some old grandpas and grandmas who could not move easily. This would not have been seen in the past. Because in the past, they had often seen rich people bullying people and committing crimes, as well as dragons bullying the common people. Do you feel relieved? Mu Qing smiled. Yes. They did not let down the peace we exchanged for with our lives back then. Qin Feiyang nodded. The peace in the ancient world could be said to be exchanged for with their lives. Although they had won the battle back then, the Dragon Slayer Palace had also suffered a lot of casualties. I remember that your ancestor had a disciple in the ancient realm? Mu Qing transmitted her voice. Disciple? Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned and asked suspiciously, really? I'm not talking about Qin Badian. I'm talking about Lu Xingyang. This disciple seems to be called something like Li, for a moment. Mu Qing couldn't remember this person's name either. Lu Xingyang's disciple, surnamed Li, Qin Feiyang frowned. Suddenly, his eyes lit up as he said, I think his name is Li. Li Xiaofei. He finally remembered. That was right. Lu Xingyang indeed had such a disciple. Back then, he was the young lord of the southern region of the dragon-slaying palace. At that time, Qin Feiyang was the young lord of the north. He had quite an impression of Li Xiaofei back then. Because this guy was like a scammer, always talking about his sixth sense. Yes, that's him. Mu Qing nodded. If you didn't mention him now, I really would have forgotten about him. After the battle with the dragons, I didn't have much interaction with him. Moreover, my ancestor didn't take him to the Sky Cloud realm. I think he might have stayed in the ancient realm. Qin Feiyang muttered. Mu Qing said, if he really stayed in the ancient realm, then his status and strength in the ancient realm must be extraordinary now. After all, he was Lu Xingyang's disciple. His achievements must be far beyond others. And if he and we are really fated, I think we will definitely meet in the future. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. During the conversation, the two came to the central area of the city. The location of the treasure pavilion didn't change much. The two had already seen it from afar. Just as they were about to walk over, Qin Feiyang suddenly looked ahead. Not far ahead, there was a large square. This was the central square of the Holy Dragon City. On the square, there were 2 divine statues standing tall and upright. Damn! Mu Qing raised her head and looked at the square. Her expression suddenly froze. The 2 statues in the center of the square were exactly the same as Qin Feiyang and the madman. Moreover, in front of the statues, there were indeed many people kneeling and praying at this moment. Sure enough, it was as Yi Zhong said. The creatures of the ancient realm were now worshipping the 2 like gods. Anything else is fine, as long as it's not praying for children. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. Mu Qing rolled her eyes. Others didn't even have this kind of treatment. Then she pondered for a while and asked, but, then again, if the madman statue is with you, will it affect the birth of your faith power? This. Qin Feiyang hesitated. I'm afraid I have to ask the mysterious young man to know. Because he didn't know much about the faith power. If it will affect it, take it down as soon as possible. Mu Qing smiled mischievously. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. He turned his head and looked around. His gaze suddenly looked at a certain place on the left side of the square as if he had seen something unbelievable. His face was full of astonishment. What now? Mu Qing looked at him suspiciously. Qin Feiyang pointed at a restaurant and asked, Look, isn't that the Heaven Immortal Tower? Mu Qing looked up and said angrily, It's not like you can't read. If those 3 words aren't Heaven Immortal Tower, then what are they? It's really the Heaven Immortal Tower? That can't be right. Isn't the Heaven Immortal Tower in the Eastern Tomb? Qin Feiyang scratched his head. He had a deep impression of the Heaven Immortal Tower. Because the Tower Master of the Heaven Immortal Tower, Miss Heaven Immortal, was also his old friend. In the past, she had helped him. There was also the Heaven Immortal Dew Tea and the Heaven Immortal Drunk Wine that came from the Heaven Immortal Tower. Back then, Hua Yi and the 5-clawed golden dragon were extremely obsessed with the Heaven Immortal Drunk Wine. They remembered that before they went to the Nether King's Hell, they even specially borrowed the space-time gate from Qin Feiyang and went to the Heaven Immortal Tower in the Eastern Tomb to empty the entire wine cellar. But they didn't expect that they would actually see the Heaven Immortal Tower in the Holy Dragon City now. Could it be that the name was just the same? Brother. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang grabbed a young man passing by. This person was wearing luxurious clothes and had an imposing appearance. With one look, one could tell that he was a descendant of a big family. The young man in luxurious clothes was stunned. He stopped and looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. Qin Feiyang hurriedly let go of the young man and said with a smile, Don't misunderstand. I just want to ask you something. The young man in luxurious clothes suddenly understood. So you want to ask about something? I thought that you saw that I was too handsome and were jealous of my peerless appearance. Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing were stunned. This was too shameless. He was indeed a little handsome, but not to the extent that they were jealous of him. Speak, what do you want to know? The young man in luxurious clothes asked, but before Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing could reply, he continued, Why don't you guys invite me to the Heaven Immortal Tower for a few drinks? We can chat while drinking? The corner of Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched. This brat really had an easygoing personality. Wait. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang sized up the young man in luxurious clothes and asked suspiciously, Why do I feel that you look a little familiar? Familiar? The young man in luxurious clothes was stunned. He also carefully sized up Qin Feiyang for a moment before shaking his head and saying, But I don't know you guys. Hey, don't try to get close to me just because I'm so handsome. Let me tell you guys, I'm not interested in men. Qin Feiyang's face darkened. The word handsome didn't leave his mouth. How narcissistic was he? However, this person's facial features really gave him an inexplicable sense of familiarity. But he just couldn't remember. Moreover, this person only had the cultivation of the war god. The cultivation of the war god was obviously a junior of the later generation. How could a junior of the later generation find him familiar? So strange. What do you want to ask? The young man in luxurious clothes urged. Qin Feiyang temporarily put aside the doubts in his heart and looked at the young man in luxurious clothes with a smile. I want to ask you about the situation of the Heaven Immortal Tower. Is this Heaven Immortal Tower related to the Heaven Immortal Tower in the East Tomb? The young man in luxurious clothes was stunned. When he came back to his senses, he looked at Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing strangely. What? The two of them were puzzled. Are you guys from the Divine Prefecture? No. Are you guys from the ancient world? You don't even know about the Heaven Immortal Tower? The young man in luxurious clothes had a look of disdain. Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing were stunned once again. As the owner of the strongest war soul and an existence that shook the sky cloud realm and the divine kingdom, he was actually looked down on by a little brat at this moment. It was really a slap in the face. The young man in luxurious clothes said, the Heaven Immortal Tower in the East Tomb and here are both from the same Heaven Immortal Tower. The same one? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Yes. Not only in the Holy Dragon City, but in the entire ancient world, there are branches of the Heaven Immortal Tower in all the big and small cities. In the past, the headquarters of the Heaven Immortal Tower was indeed in the East Tomb. But now, Heaven Immortal has moved the headquarters to the Holy Dragon City. The young man in luxurious clothes said. Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing looked at each other. The Heaven Immortal Tower had now spread throughout the entire ancient world? This development was a little too fast. Wait. Qin Feiyang was suddenly stunned and asked, Heaven Immortal? What do you mean? The Tower Master of the Heaven Immortal Tower is your aunt? Did I say that? I don't think so. You guys heard wrong. The young man in luxurious clothes tried his best to deny it as if he was a little guilty. Then, he hurriedly said, I still have something to do. Goodbye. After saying that, he quickly left. What does this brat mean? Mu Qing looked at the young man's back view. Isn't it obvious? He must be hiding something. Qin Feiyang looked at the young man's back view and said with a smile, what an interesting little fellow. Mu Qing suddenly said, you don't say, I also feel that he is a little familiar. Is that so? It seems that he might be the descendant of one of our old friends. Qin Feiyang smiled. Heaven Immortal, Mu Qing pondered for a while and asked, he can't be Miss Heaven Immortal's son, right? Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched. He looked at Mu Qing speechlessly and turned to walk toward the treasure pavilion. Why are you looking at me like that? Mu Qing chased after him. Think about it yourself. Qin Feiyang said without turning his head. Mu Qing thought carefully and suddenly couldn't help but want to slap herself. This little fellow even called Miss Heaven Immortal his aunt. How could he be Miss Heaven Immortal's son? Her reputation was ruined at this moment. Greetings, young masters. When Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing entered the treasure pavilion, a dignified and beautiful woman immediately came up to them with a standard smile on her face. Qin Feiyang said with a smile, we would like to see an old friend. Please inform him. An old friend? The woman was stunned and asked suspiciously, may I know who the old friend is? Shengguan Qiu. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. What? You two are old friends of the chief pavilion master? The woman was stunned on the spot. She couldn't believe it. Chapter 43-51. Qin Feiyang did not lower his voice when he said this. Many people in the surroundings heard this, and they immediately turned their heads to look at Qin Feiyang and Qin Yu. Their expressions were extremely stunned. Old friends of the chief pavilion master? What a joke. Whether it was their looks or their clothes, they did not look like rich people. Due to the fact that Qin Feiyang and Qin Yu had changed their appearances and were wearing plain clothes, their temperaments were also very ordinary. Thus, they looked very ordinary. At the same time, Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing were also stunned. Shangguan Xiu was the chief pavilion master of the treasure pavilion? That was not right. Was the chief pavilion master not Supreme Cloud? Had Supreme Cloud abdicated his position? Brother, are you two joking? Don't think too much. I'm not hurting your pride. How could you two know the chief pavilion master of the treasure pavilion with your status? Don't tell me this is some cheap trick to get close to the chief pavilion master. A young man spoke. He was also dressed in fine clothes and had an extraordinary aura. Get close to the chief pavilion master? Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing were stunned. What did he mean? How dare you deny it? Are you trying to use this method to get close to the chief pavilion master and see her peerless beauty? Let me tell you, your acting is too clumsy. I can see it at a glance. The young man shook his head, his face full of disdain. That's right. The chief pavilion master is young and capable. Most importantly, she's very beautiful. She's the goddess of all men. Dwarfs and paupers like you can forget about touching our goddess. Yes, we won't let you have your way. A group of young men in their 20s spontaneously formed a human wall in front of Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing. Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing's mouths twitched. Dwarfs and paupers? Could this word be used on them? Public morals were degenerating day by day. Both of you, the chief pavilion master is busy and has no time to meet you. Please leave. The woman who received Qin Feiyang and Zhao Fu thought that Qin Feiyang and Zhao Fu were here to admire their goddess, so she asked them to leave. However, her attitude was still quite amiable. Mu Qing said helplessly, "We are really Shangguan Xiu's old friends. If you don't believe me, you can ask her to come out and see us." It was all Qin Feiyang's fault. Why did he have to change his appearance? Otherwise, why would such a joke happen? The woman held back her patience and said with a smile, "Chief Pavilion Master really doesn't have time, please." Mu Qing was about to say something. However, the woman's patience seemed to have run out. She looked at the two guards at the door and said with a smile, "Send these two young masters out." Yes. Two guards stepped forward and dragged Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing out of the room. Brother, we are really not here to get close to Shangguan Xiu, Mu Qing tried his best to explain. The two guards pushed the two of them onto the street and shook their heads. Little brother, we have seen a lot of tricks like this over the years. You are basically here to win the chief pavilion master's heart, but it's useless because our chief pavilion master already has someone in her heart. Someone in her heart? Mu Qing was slightly stunned. He glanced at Qin Feiyang and asked curiously, "Who is it?" Who else could it be? It's the famous Qin Feiyang, Lord Qin. In this world, other than Lord Qin, I don't think anyone is worthy of the chief pavilion master. The two guards said proudly. So it's Lord Qin. No wonder. Mu Qing nodded in realization. So you'd better give up. Hurry up and leave. Don't force us to use force, or you will suffer. The two guards waved their hands and turned back to the two sides of the door, scanning everyone entering and leaving the treasure hall. Lord Qin. I didn't expect you to be so charming. After so many years, she still hasn't given up. Mu Qing looked at Qin Feiyang mockingly. Qin Feiyang's face darkened, and he glared at him. He looked up at the treasure hall and couldn't help but hesitate. Should he go see Shangguan Xiu? She has waited for you for so many years. Don't tell me you want to turn around and leave now. Have you forgotten what old Master Yi said? A man must never hurt a woman who loves him. If you turn around and leave now, Shangguan Xiu will be heartbroken when she finds out. Mu Qing's face was full of mischief. Aren't you annoying? Hurry up and go to the Black Tortoise world. When we return to the Great Qin, I will call you out. Qin Feiyang said with a dark face. Damn. You are burning the bridge after crossing the river. No, I must stay outside and watch the show today. Mu Qing snorted coldly. Qin Feiyang looked helpless. Don't dawdle. Hurry up and activate the concealment technique and sneak in. Mu Qing urged. Qin Feiyang glanced at him and said, why don't you go to the Heaven Immortal Tower to drink? I will treat you. What good wine can the Heaven Immortal Tower have? Besides, do I need you to treat me? Mu Qing's face was full of disdain, and he said with a sneaky smile, you want to send me away? No way. Hurry up, we still have to go to the Human Emperor Palace later. Don't miss the performance of your brothers and sisters. Qin Feiyang felt helpless. He could only activate the concealment technique and quietly enter the treasure hall with Mu Qing. Huh? The guard standing at the door was stunned when he saw the two of them suddenly disappear. Then, he couldn't help but mutter, they actually have a spatial divine item. It seems that they are not ordinary people. They thought that the two of them had gone to a spatial divine item. And spatial divine items were quite valuable in the ancient world. Treasure hall. On the top floor. There were 2 guards at the entrance of the stairs, and their cultivation had reached the 9 Heavens realm. The 9 Heavens realm was considered a first-class expert in the ancient world. After passing through the entrance of the stairs, they entered a corridor. There were 4 doors on both sides of the corridor. The 4 doors were all closed. At the end of the corridor, there was another door. The door was half open, and they could clearly sense an aura from inside. The owner of the aura was Shengguanqiu. Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing quietly walked to the door and looked inside. They saw that there was a very big study inside. There was a bookshelf on the right wall, and all kinds of books were neatly placed on it. In front of the bookshelf, there was a desk made of Fibijianan wood. The ink, paper, and books on the desk were also neatly placed. At this moment, a woman in a long white dress was sitting in front of the desk, looking down at an account book seriously. Opposite the desk, there was an exquisite tea table. On the left side of the tea table, there was a tea set, and on the right side, there was a palm-sized incense burner. A faint fragrance floated out from the incense burner. The woman looked at the account book meticulously, making the study very quiet. She's getting more and more beautiful. Mu Qing looked at the woman's cheeks and could not help but feel warm in his heart. He sent a voice transmission, Qin Feiyang, are you really not tempted? If you are not tempted, then I'll start to take action. Qin Feiyang turned his head and looked at Mu Qing in a daze. What? Do you have a problem with that? Mu Qing frowned. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at him and said to himself, I don't have time to joke with you now. Who's joking with you? Mu Qing muttered. When he was in the ancient world, he basically cultivated in the Black Tortoise realm, so he was quite unfamiliar with Shengguanqiu. Now that he looked at her from such a close distance, she was really beautiful. What was wrong with Qin Feiyang? How could he refuse such a beautiful and capable woman? Let's go in. Qin Feiyang sent a voice transmission. The two of them passed through the half-open door and quietly entered the study. Why are you sneaking around? What are you doing? Mu Qing raised his eyebrows. She's working. Why are you disturbing her? Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes and then wandered around the study. Shengguanqiu did not notice the two of them at all. Time passed quietly. An hour was about to pass. Mu Qing had lost his patience. At this moment, Shengguanqiu finally raised his head and frowned. He looked at the door and said, Come in. Tada! Along with the sound of footsteps, a guard came in and bowed. Cabinet Master, what can I do for you? There are some mistakes in the account book of the Serpent City Treasure Pavilion. Take the account book and check it with the supervisor over there. If it's confirmed that they have embezzled it, kill them first and report later. Shengguanqiu said. His tone was slightly cold and had a murderous aura. Yes. The guard nodded and took the account book with a bow. Then he turned and left quickly. Kill them first and report later. Mu Qing couldn't help but shiver when he heard this. Is this woman so ruthless? Do you still want to take action now? Qin Feiyang smiled secretly. Yes. This is the kind of character I like. Mu Qing nodded reluctantly. Take action, my ass. He had been looking for a gentle and virtuous woman, such as the Mermaid Princess and Fire Lotus. This Shangguan Xiao was not to his taste. Qin Feiyang looked at him speechlessly and said with a smile, Chief Cabinet Master, I didn't expect it to be so difficult to even see you now. As soon as he said this, Shangguan Xiao, who was about to check an account book, immediately looked up at the side of the tea table. His eyes were full of surprise. Because the voice came from the side of the tea table. I don't know if you still recognize your old friend after so many years. Qin Feiyang laughed. With a shift of his mind, the invisibility spell disappeared. Shangguan Xiao immediately saw two strange men sitting in front of the tea table. One of them was looking at her with a smile, while the other was leaning against the chair and swinging his feet leisurely. Who are you? When did you come in? Shangguan Xiao immediately stood up, her eyes full of vigilance. Obviously. These two men had entered the study long ago, but she didn't notice. We've been here for a long time. We didn't want to disturb you because you were busy. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. Who are you? Why are you sneaking around here? What do you want? A cold light flashed in Shangguan Xiao's eyes, and his body emitted a trace of terrifying aura. Hey! Mu Qing looked up and sized up Shangguan Xiao. This woman's cultivation had reached the inextinguishable realm. Inextinguishable realm. Not bad. It seems that you've been working hard on your cultivation these years while managing the treasure pavilion. Qin Feiyang laughed. The more Shangguan Xiao looked at them, the more confused she became. Why did she feel that these two strange men seemed to know her very well? Chapter 43-52. Mu Qing turned to look at Qin Feiyang and said jokingly, It seems that if we don't show our identities today, she won't recognize us. Qin Feiyang also laughed. Who the hell are you? Shangguan Xiao became more and more confused. If they wanted to harm her, they had a lot of opportunities when she was checking the account book, but they didn't do anything. Moreover, judging from their expressions, they didn't seem to have any ill intentions. Qin Feiyang took out two face-restoring elixirs. Shangguan Xiao's pupils shrank when she saw the two face-restoring elixirs. Because these two face-restoring elixirs had 9 dragon-shaped elixirs. There were no elixirs of this level in the ancient realm. Could it be that they weren't from the ancient realm? Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing looked at each other and took the face-restoring elixirs. Their faces and figures began to change. As their appearances changed, a sense of familiarity appeared bit by bit. At last, 2 familiar faces appeared in front of her. You, immediately. Shangguan Xiao was stunned and her eyes were full of disbelief. Was this a dream? They had gone to the sky cloud realm a long time ago. How could they suddenly appear in front of her? Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing smiled but didn't say anything. After a long time, Shangguan Xiao came back to her senses and looked at Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing again. She looked very carefully and seriously, as if she was afraid to miss a small detail. After checking again and again, she was finally sure that this was not a dream. This man had returned from the sky cloud realm. In her heart, the longing that had been buried for many years gushed out uncontrollably like a volcanic eruption. Her eyes were also slowly filled with a layer of mist. I'd better be sensible and wait outside. Mu Qing muttered, turned around and quietly walked out of the study and gently closed the door. There were no guards in the corridor outside. The guards were guarding the stairs downstairs. As long as she didn't release her aura or make any noise, no one would notice Mu Qing. Is it really you? In the study, Qin Feiyang and Shangguan Xiao stood facing each other. Shangguan Xiao murmured. Although she wanted to control herself, her feet would not listen to her. Step by step, she walked toward Qin Feiyang. "It's me." Qin Feiyang nodded and smiled. He felt more apologetic towards Sheng Guanqiu. Sheng Guanqiu was an outstanding and kind woman. If not for the fact that he already had a woman he loved in his heart, he might have really gotten together with Sheng Guanqiu. But now, there was no room for other women in his heart. Therefore, in the face of this woman who had always been deeply in love with him, he could only apologize. Maybe, this was fate. They were fated but not fated to be together. But, although they couldn't become lovers, the woman in front of him would always be the most important person in his life. He could take care of her and protect her like his own sister. If anyone wanted to bully her, he would be the first to disagree. Seeing Qin Feiyang nodding and looking at that familiar smile, Sheng Guanqiu's inner emotions completely collapsed. She threw herself into Qin Feiyang's arms. Tears of joy instantly wet Qin Feiyang's chest. Qin Feiyang raised his hands. After a slight hesitation, he hugged Sheng Guanqiu gently and said with a smile, "You don't have to be so excited to see your big brother back." Big brother, Sheng Guanqiu's body stiffened when she heard this. Qin Feiyang, who was hugging Sheng Guanqiu, could clearly feel this abnormality. But what could he say? He couldn't say anything. Because he said the words, "big brother," on purpose. It was also a response to Sheng Guanqiu. In his heart, he could only see her as a sister. He also believed that with Sheng Guanqiu's intelligence, she would definitely understand the meaning of this sentence. Of course, Sheng Guanqiu could hear it. Otherwise, her body wouldn't have stiffened a little just now. A trace of disappointment filled his heart. But soon, she covered it up and hugged this man's back tightly with both hands. Even if it was only a moment of tenderness, she was already satisfied. Qin Feiyang didn't say anything more. At this time, not saying anything was the best choice. However, to tell the truth, this little girl was not only beautiful, but also had a nice fragrance on her. If it were another man hugging such a woman, he would have been tempted. What's going on? There's no movement at all. Could it be, a single man and a single woman, dry firewood and raging fire, can't even control themselves, Mu Qing muttered outside the door. He couldn't help but put his ear against the door to eavesdrop. Still no sound. What did this mean? Could it be an emotional exchange? He couldn't help but want to open his all-seeing eye to secretly peek. After a while, the door suddenly opened. Mu Qing, who was leaning against the door, was caught off guard. He staggered and fell down. A hand reached over and supported him, so he didn't fall to the ground in a sorry state. "What are you doing?" Qin Feiyang's voice sounded. Mu Qing looked up at Qin Feiyang and saw Qin Feiyang standing in front of him, staring at him with a dark face. Sheng Guanqiu was also standing with him. His tears had dried. At this moment, he looked at Mu Qing with an extremely strange expression. "Huh," Mu Qing laughed dryly, hiding the embarrassment in his expression. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes and said, "Quickly change your appearance and go to the Human Emperor Palace." Go to the Human Emperor Palace now? Mu Qing was stunned. After not seeing each other for so long, shouldn't they find a place where no one was around to talk to each other and comfort each other? Qin Feiyang glanced at Sheng Guanqiu next to him and transmitted a voice message, "Mu, I'm warning you, don't say anything you shouldn't say." What shouldn't I say? What should I say? You have to make it clear. I don't know what to do. Mu Qing looked at him playfully. Qin Feiyang's face darkened. Okay, I won't joke. Mu Qing waved his hand, looked at Sheng Guanqiu, and said with a smile, "In the past, we didn't have much interaction. Maybe we only knew of each other's existence, but we weren't familiar with each other at all. So, from now on, I hope that Chief Pavilion Master can take care of me." Sheng Guanqiu couldn't help but smile bitterly when he heard this. You, the owner of the all-seeing eye, need a nobody like me to take care of you? Hurry up, don't dawdle. Qin Feiyang took out 2 phantom elixirs. The 2 quickly changed back to their previous appearances. What about you? Mu Qing looked at Sheng Guanqiu and asked. Do I still need to change my appearance? Sheng Guanqiu was stunned. Mu Qing said, you're so popular now. If you don't change your appearance and go out with us like this, won't we be drowned by their spittle? I'm going out to win some face for you. Sheng Guanqiu laughed. Huh, interesting. Mu Qing laughed. What's going on? Why is there a man's laughter upstairs? The 2 guards at the bottom of the stairs heard Mu Qing's laughter, and a trace of suspicion crept up their faces. Then, they quickly ran up. When they saw Mu Qing standing outside the door, they were stunned. Then, the 2 of them shouted in unison, Who are you? Their eyes also flashed fiercely. Don't be rude. Sheng Guanqiu walked out, stood beside Mu Qing, and said, Master. The 2 of them hurriedly bowed. Qin Feiyang also walked out. When the 2 of them saw Qin Feiyang, they couldn't help but be stunned. They're all my friends. No need to make a fuss. Then, Sheng Guanqiu turned around and closed the door. Looking at Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing, he said with a smile, Let's go down. The 2 of them looked at each other and smiled, then walked down 1 floor. When Qin Feiyang and the other 2 walked past them and went straight downstairs, the 2 guards scratched their heads, looking confused. When did the chief pavilion master make these 2 friends? They were also Sheng Guanqiu's guards, and they were responsible for his safety. Therefore, they knew Sheng Guanqiu's situation better than anyone else. All these years, they had never seen these 2 strange men. Moreover, they looked very ordinary. Master's friends are not people we can guess. Master seems to be going out. Hurry up and follow him to protect him. One of the guards whispered and quickly chased after Sheng Guanqiu. What are you doing here? When Qin Feiyang and the other 2 came to the 3rd floor, the 2 guards caught up with them. Sheng Guanqiu immediately turned to look at the 2 of them and asked suspiciously. What can we do here? Of course we're here to protect you. The 2 of them were a little confused. When you went out in the past, weren't we by your side to protect you? Sheng Guanqiu suddenly smiled and waved his hand, saying, No, go do something else. What a joke. With Qin Feiyang by his side, why would he need other people to protect him? Although she did not know how powerful Qin Feiyang was now, based on the methods he used in the ancient world, a few guards could not compare to him. The 2 guards looked at each other and didn't know what to do for a moment. Sheng Guanqiu ignored them and followed Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing down the stairs. On the 1st floor. Until now, many young talents were still laughing at Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing. Even rich young masters like us, disciples of the human emperor palace, have no chance to meet the chief pavilion master. What right do these 2 low-level people have? Isn't this a joke? I said I was the chief pavilion master's old friend, and I said I was the chief pavilion master's lover in his previous life. Would you believe me? Everyone laughed. Even the guards who maintained the order of the treasure pavilion and the staff who were busy couldn't help but laugh. But suddenly, a rich man in a purple robe looked at the corridor leading to the 2nd floor, as if he had seen something incredible. His eyes immediately widened. What are you doing? Several companions next to him noticed his abnormality and looked at him suspiciously. See for yourselves. The young man in purple pointed at the corridor. They looked up and saw 2 men and a woman walking out. Immediately, they were dumbfounded. The tricksterly Xiaofei, Wang Yu, and the familiar-looking young man in luxurious clothes, Hui Yi and Shengguan Fenglan's son. Qin Li, Qin Xian, Qin Yun, Qin Wan, Qin Ji, Qin Yi. Chapter 43-53. How could this be? Weren't they dragged out just now? Why are they walking down the stairs with the chief pavilion master now? The others gradually noticed this scene. They were so shocked that one could stuff an egg into their mouths. The guards and staff around them were also in disbelief. Especially the two guards who had dragged Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing out. Their jaws almost fell off. What were you talking about just now? Mu Qing swaggered over and looked at everyone present, her eyes full of mockery. Impossible. This must be a dream. Someone could not help but roar in his heart. How could the dignified chief pavilion master of the treasure pavilion be acquainted with such low-level trash? However, at this moment, Shang Guanxiu naturally raised her hand and held Qin Feiyang's arm. What? She actually took the initiative to hold that man's arm? Oh my God. I must be sleepwalking now. How could my goddess do such an intimate thing with a man, and such an ordinary man at that? I don't believe it. Shang Guanxiu's action caused a huge uproar. All the young talents present glared at Qin Feiyang angrily. How dare he touch their goddess? This is unforgivable. Boy, I want to fight you one-on-one. Boy, don't hide. Tell me your name. I want to see who you are. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but smile bitterly as he looked at the angry faces. Femme fatale. This sentence was indeed true. Shang Guanxiu's small action made him the target of all the men's attacks. I say, you little girl, aren't you clearly trying to harm me? He turned to look at Shang Guanxiu, his face full of helplessness. Isn't it normal for a sister to hold her brother's arm? Shang Guanxiu transmitted her voice, a sly look in her eyes. Qin Feiyang's heart was filled with bitterness. He had regained his dignity, but the situation was not good. Let's go. He did not resist and let Shang Guanxiu hold his arm as they walked quickly to the gate. Mu Qing took the lead and walked to the gate proudly. Looking at the two guards, she bared her teeth and said, "Do you dare to say what you said before again?" Sorry, previously, we were blind." The two guards quickly bowed and apologized. Who would have thought that these two ordinary people actually knew the chief pavilion master of the treasure pavilion? And it seemed that their relationship was not ordinary. You can't leave. However, before Qin Feiyang could walk out of the gate, he was blocked by a group of young talents. What? Qin Feiyang frowned. Now that Shang Guanxiu was the chief pavilion master, who would dare to disobey her? But at this moment, she looked at this scene as if she didn't see it. Fight. Today, you must fight with us. Otherwise, we will definitely not let you go. Not interested. Qin Feiyang rubbed his forehead with one hand and looked at the silent Shang Guanxiu. He said helplessly, "This is your treasure pavilion. Aren't you going to do something about it? They are all young talents from wealthy families. I can't afford to offend them." Shang Guanxiu looked at Qin Feiyang and shook her head. She blinked her big eyes and looked very innocent. Seeing the way Shang Guanxiu looked at Qin Feiyang, the group of young talents became even angrier. They thought that Shang Guanxiu was acting coquettishly in front of Qin Feiyang. "If you are a man, come and fight." "Yes. Fight." The group of people shouted angrily. Even the people on the street outside were attracted to the scene. Without exception. When they saw Shang Guanxiu holding the arm of a strange man, they were all in disbelief. Mu Qing stood outside the door and looked at Qin Feiyang, who was in a bad situation. Instead of helping him, she crossed her arms and watched the show gloatingly. Qin Feiyang sighed helplessly. He glanced at the people blocking the door and said patiently, "Don't test my patience. Get out of the way. I have something to do." "What is it?" "Are you two going to?" "No, you can't defile our goddess." The group of young talents looked at Qin Feiyang and Shang Guanxiu in shock and anger. Obviously, they had misunderstood. Qin Feiyang was about to break down. He should not have listened to Shang Guanxiu. If he had directly opened the space-time tunnel to go to the human emperor palace, he would not have had to deal with all this trouble. Phew. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and continued to be patient. He said, for the last time, get out of the way. No. You have to fight with us. Someone shouted. That's right. Let's see what you are capable of to win the favor of our goddess. The others also joined in the commotion. In the past, if someone dared to make a scene like this, the guards of the treasure pavilion would have already taken action. But now, the chief pavilion master was here. Most importantly, she did not say a word. Therefore, the guards who maintained the order of the treasure pavilion did not know whether to take action or not. Fine. You asked for it. Qin Feiyang shook his head helplessly. Boom. A terrifying aura surged out from his body. The group of young people blocking the door immediately spat out a mouthful of blood and flew out. So powerful. Among those young talents, there are a few half-ninth heaven realm cultivators. How could he send them flying so easily? Everyone looked at Qin Feiyang in shock. But they knew that this aura was not even 1% of Qin Feiyang's at his peak. Otherwise, these small fries would have died on the spot. Don't provoke me again. Otherwise, I will really get angry and the consequences will be quite serious. Qin Feiyang warned them and strode out of the treasure pavilion. Sheng Guanxiu was still holding on to Qin Feiyang's arm and had no intention of letting go. Not bad. Angry because of a beauty. Mu Qing chased after them and grinned. Get lost. Qin Feiyang's face darkened. It's no use telling me to get lost. You have to tell them to get lost. Mu Qing looked at the surrounding streets. Qin Feiyang looked up and the corners of his mouth twitched. The group of young talents followed behind them, unwilling to give up. And the passers-by all stopped and looked at them curiously. Qin Feiyang felt like a monkey now. He whispered, why don't we open the space-time tunnel and go directly to the human emperor palace? No. Sheng Guanxiu shook her head. Why? Qin Feiyang was very depressed. Didn't they see that he had become the public enemy now? I like to walk on the street. Sheng Guanxiu said. The corners of Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched again. This girl must be doing it on purpose. Helplessly, he could only bite the bullet and walk all the way to the city gate. Isn't that the chief pavilion lord? Look, look. The chief pavilion lord is holding a man's arm intimately and talking and laughing with him. What's going on? Oh my god, my goddess. Don't stop me, I'm going to kill him. Along the way, not to mention Qin Feiyang, even Mu Qing, who was gloating, looked at the crazy young people around them and could not help but feel numb. Sheng Guanxiu is too powerful. In the future, who would dare to walk with her? Sister Qiu. Suddenly, a familiar voice sounded behind them. This voice, Qin Feiyang was taken aback. He turned his head around and saw a fairy-like woman walking towards them. That's right. She was the tower master of the Heaven Immortal Tower, Miss Fairy. She was wearing a long dress that reached the floor and was as white as snow. Her black hair was like a waterfall and fluttered in the wind. Her figure was like a demon. Mu Qing turned around and her eyes lit up. She said telepathically, Old Qin, I feel that I'm going to fall in love. Huh? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Didn't she say that she wanted to pursue Sheng Guanxiu? Why was she interested in Miss Fairy now? Falling in love with every girl she saw, she was indeed not a good person. I was joking just now, but I'm serious now. Help me plan. If it succeeds, I'll invite you to my wedding. Mu Qing stared at Miss Fairy, her eyes shining. Qin Feiyang looked at Mu Qing's eyes. She did not seem to be joking. He said telepathically, wait, what do you mean? If I don't help you plan now, will you not invite me to your wedding in the future? Huh? Mu Qing was stunned. She said in a hurry, how is that possible? What's our relationship? Even if you don't come, I'll have to call a sedan chair and invite you here personally. Hypocrite. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes. Miss Fairy. Shang Guanxiu looked at Miss Fairy with a trace of joy on his face. Then, he finally let go of Qin Feiyang and ran to Miss Fairy. Finally, you let go of me. Qin Feiyang breathed a sigh of relief and wiped the sweat on his forehead. However, when he looked at the crowd around him, his face froze. Although Shang Guanxiu had let go of his arm, everyone was still looking at him with hostility in their eyes. Especially the young genius who had been following behind them. His ferocious gaze seemed as if he wished to skin Qin Feiyang alive. Do you feel that it's harder than a bloody battle? Mu Qing snickered. Nonsense. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at him. I understand you. Don't worry, I'll always be by your side and share your burden. Mu Qing patted Qin Feiyang's shoulder and smiled. Qin Feiyang's mouth kept twitching. This guy didn't have such an attitude before. What? Now that he likes Miss Fairy and wants me to play matchmaker, he's trying to please me? How can there be such a good thing? Sister Chiu, what's wrong with you? I was in Tianyue Tower just now and heard the people downstairs say that you were holding the hand of a strange man. I didn't believe it, but when I came here, it was true. Miss Fairy pulled Qin Feiyang aside and asked in a low voice while looking at him. Shang Guanxiu was stunned. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, Sister, he's not a stranger. Not a stranger? Miss Fairy was stunned. She looked at Qin Feiyang for a moment and said with a frown, I've never seen him. Tell me honestly, did he bewitch you? Otherwise, why would you like him? Bewitch me? Shang Guanxiu shook his head with a wry smile and said, Sister, your imagination is too rich. Chapter 43-54. In her heart, she really wanted to be with this man forever, hand in hand until they were old, but this would never happen. Because in this man's heart, there was only that woman. And she could only be this man's sister forever. Since you're not his lover, why are you so intimate with him? And on the street. Do you know that you're the chief pavilion master of the treasure school now? Aren't you afraid that he'll affect you negatively? Miss Fairy frowned. As a friend for many years, she had long regarded Shang Guanxiu as her own sister. So she was worried that Shang Guanxiu would be cheated by some stinky man. What negative effects can there be? Besides, even if there is, I don't care. Shang Guanxiu smiled indifferently and pulled Miss Fairy to Qin Feiyang and Qin Feiyang. He looked at them and said with a smile, I don't think I need to introduce them to you. Qin Feiyang was about to say no, but Mu Qing beat him to it. Yes, of course. And you have to introduce them in detail. He winked at Shang Guanxiu as he said this. Shang Guanxiu was very smart. He immediately saw through Mu Qing's thoughts. However, she was a little hesitant. Because she had heard about Mu Qing. She was totally different from Qin Feiyang, white-eyed wolf, and lunatic. She would be happy to find a good husband for Miss Fairy. But Mu Qing might not be good. Why don't you introduce them? Do I know them before? Miss Fairy looked at Shang Guanxiu suspiciously. She had no impression of these two men. Well, Shang Guanxiu looked at Qin Feiyang hesitantly. He was obviously asking if he should tell Miss Fairy about their identities. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Let's go to the Human Emperor Palace first. Okay. Shang Guanxiu nodded. He looked at Miss Fairy and smiled. Sister, why don't you come with us to the Human Emperor Palace? Maybe there will be a surprise later. Yes, yes, yes. Let's go to the Human Emperor Palace together. Mu Qing nodded repeatedly. Miss Fairy looked at Mu Qing cautiously. She felt that there was something wrong with the way this person looked at her. She turned to look at Shang Guanxiu and asked suspiciously, what surprise? If you say it now, is it still a surprise? Shang Guanxiu smiled and said stiffly, anyway, someone will take care of Tianyue Tower for you. Come with me. Go, go, go. My hand is about to break because of you. Miss Fairy looked at her helplessly. Then, the two women held hands and walked towards the city gate. Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing followed behind them unhurriedly. From the very beginning, Miss Fairy had been wary of Mu Qing. I say, can you be a little more reserved? You'll scare others like this. Qin Feiyang looked at Mu Qing speechlessly. Why did all his friends become such idiots whenever they met a woman they liked? Really? Mu Qing was a little surprised and asked, do I look scary now? You look like a hungry wolf now. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at him. No way. Then, did I give her a bad first impression? Mu Qing suddenly panicked. You only know now. Qin Feiyang shook his head. He was really slow. Now that there was another Miss Celestial, the pressure on Qin Feiyang was even greater. Mu Qing naturally could not escape and became the target of all the young talents. Because both Shangguan Xiu and Miss Fairy were now goddesses in the ancient world. It was no exaggeration to say that their pursuers and admirers could form a line from the north of the Divine Land to the south of the Divine Land. Now, Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing were walking together with two goddesses. Could other men stay calm? Of course not. However, no one dared to make a move. The Human Emperor Palace. Like the Dragon God Palace, it was spread all over the ancient world. It was in the north, west, south, and east of the Divine Land. The Human Emperor Palace in the north was in the original Dragon God Palace. A stairway to heaven led to the clouds. At the top of the stairway to heaven stood a magnificent door. Beside it stood a tall stone tablet with the words, Human Emperor Palace, engraved on it. Below the stone tablet sat an unfamiliar old man. He seemed to be the expert guarding the door of the Human Emperor Palace. The aura he exuded had reached the ninth heaven realm of perfection. The cultivation of the ninth heaven realm of perfection was quite powerful in the ancient world. The old man suddenly felt that someone was coming up the stairway. He immediately opened his eyes and looked down at the stairway. He saw two men and two women walking up the stairway, talking and laughing. A trace of suspicion appeared in the old man's eyes. He naturally knew Shangguan Xiu and Miss Fairy. But he had no impression of the two young men beside them. Greetings, Elder Yu. After reaching the top, Shangguan Xiu and Miss Fairy immediately bowed to the old man. No, no. The old man quickly waved his hand. Although he was an expert of the Human Emperor Palace, Shangguan Xiu and Miss Fairy were famous figures in the ancient world. Especially Shangguan Xiu. Not only was he the chief pavilion master of the treasure pavilion, but he was also the disciple of Supreme Cloud. Most importantly, although they were juniors, their cultivation was stronger than the old man's. You're an elder. It's only right for us to bow to you. Shangguan Xiu smiled gently and asked, how's the competition of the Human Emperor Palace going? I don't know about that. Elder Yu shook his head. He had been guarding this place, so he didn't know what was going on inside. Of course, he didn't care. After all, it was just a competition between disciples. Miss Fairy asked, can we go in and take a look? Of course. Elder Yu nodded, but looked at Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing hesitantly. Shangguan Xiu smiled and said, don't worry. They're our friends. They won't mess around in the Human Emperor Palace. I hope you can make an exception. With you as a guarantor, of course I'm not worried. Let's go in. Today's competition will probably be more exciting. Because many genius disciples will be participating. Elder Yu smiled. Many genius disciples will be participating? Why is that? In the past, these geniuses would not even bother to look at such a competition. Shangguan Xiu was suspicious. Not long ago, the Grand Palace Master personally gave an order to increase the rewards of this year's competition. The disciple who wins first place will not only receive a low-level divine artifact, but also a low-level divine art. So, the genius disciples who didn't plan to participate have all rushed to the battlefield. Elder Yu explained. Increasing the rewards of the competition? This has never happened before. Old Master Yi, what is he trying to do? Miss Fairy was puzzled. I don't know either. The Grand Palace Master didn't say the reason. He just told everyone to do it. The strangest thing is that Supreme Cloud and Supreme Beast, the two palace masters, have never paid any attention to the sparring between the disciples in the past, but today, they actually came to supervise in person. Elder Yu said in confusion. Supreme Cloud and Supreme Beast are here too? Miss Fairy was even more surprised when she heard this. She mumbled, could it be that some incredible genius has appeared in the human emperor's palace this time? Sheng Guanxiu's eyes flickered. Suddenly, she looked at Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing. Old Master Yi suddenly increased the rewards of the competition, and both Supreme Cloud and Supreme Beast were here personally. Could it be related to these two guys? It was too sudden. And it happened to be the day Qin Feiyang and the others returned to the ancient world. No matter how coincidental it was, it couldn't be so coincidental. Mu Qing said telepathically, Old Master Yi must have done this to let us see how outstanding the genius disciples of the human emperor's palace are. Yes. Now I'm really looking forward to it. Qin Feiyang smiled secretly. Under the lead of Sheng Guanxiu and Miss Fairy, the two stepped into the human emperor's palace. A familiar and long-awaited scene entered Qin Feiyang's vision. The current layout of the human emperor's palace was not much different from the dragon god's palace of the past. The first island, the second island, the third island, these islands of different sizes were suspended in the clouds. They were full of essence and spirit qi. From afar, they looked like immortal mountains. At this moment, there was a sea of people in the sky above the various islands. These people were basically all disciples of the human emperor's palace. Some were strong and some were weak, but their auras were all outstanding without exception. There was also a symbol embroidered on their clothes. This symbol was the word human. This was the symbol of the human emperor's palace. On the other side of the void, this place was divided into a battlefield. A huge barrier covered the battlefield, and inside the barrier, two young men were fighting wildly. Both of their cultivation bases were half a step into the ninth heaven realm. The current disciples of the human emperor's palace all had such cultivation bases, which was indeed much stronger than the dragon god's palace of the past. This was because in the past, the disciples of the dragon god's palace were generally at the ultimate god realm. In the ninth heaven realm, they were basically all monstrous figures. Old Qin, look up. Mu Qing suddenly sent a message to Qin Feiyang and looked up at the sky above the barrier. Qin Feiyang heard and looked up as well. He saw a man and a woman standing in the sky above the barrier. The auras of these two people were extremely powerful. Even from afar, one could feel an enormous pressure from their bodies. A smile appeared on Qin Feiyang's face as he looked at the two. This man and woman were Sovereign Cloud and Sovereign Beast. The ultimate gods of the ancient world. Great perfection, imperishable realm. Their cultivation bases have improved quite quickly over the years. Mu Qing thought. Yes. They only need to comprehend the fifth profound to step into the half-step sovereign realm. Qin Feiyang smiled inwardly. At the same time, Sovereign Cloud and Sovereign Beast also noticed Qin Feiyang and the other three entering the human emperor's palace, and they couldn't hide their excitement. Yi Zhong had sent them a message to tell them that Qin Feiyang had returned. In addition, Yi Zhong also said that Qin Feiyang would most likely follow Sheng Guanxiu to the human emperor's palace. Although Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing had changed their appearances, and they couldn't tell who was the real Qin Feiyang, one of them had to be Qin Feiyang since the two of them had followed Sheng Guanxiu and Miss Celestial to the human emperor's palace. Little guys, do your best. The man who once shocked the ancient world and created countless legends is now standing there looking at you. If you're lucky enough to be valued by him, you'll have a meteoric rise in the future, Sovereign Cloud suppressed his excitement and glanced at the disciples of the human emperor's palace as he muttered to himself. Sovereign Beast glanced at Sovereign Cloud and couldn't help but smile. Chapter 43-55. On the battlefield. The two young men were full of fighting spirit. All kinds of spells were being used, dazzling the audience. In other people's eyes, this was definitely an exciting battle. For example, at this moment, Sheng Guanxiu and Miss Angel could not help but nod their heads in admiration as they watched the two men fighting intensely. But for Qin Feiyang and Mu Qin, this was just a small game. Such a battle was not attractive at all. Mu Qin waved her hand and 4 chairs appeared. She said lightly, "Sit down and watch." Then, she took the lead and sat down. Qin Feiyang also sat on the chair. Miss Angel looked at the two of them in shock. What's going on? The two seniors, Supremacy Yun and Supremacy Beast, are standing up there now. How dare you two juniors sit here so brazenly? You're so ignorant and have no manners at all. Just as she was about to reprimand them, Sheng Guanxiu also sat down beside Qin Feiyang. This, Miss Angel was dumbfounded. Why is this little sister being so presumptuous? Supremacy Yun is your teacher. He's still standing. How dare you, as a disciple, sit down? Mu Qin bared her teeth and said, "If you don't think it's tiring to stand, then keep standing." Miss Angel glared at Mu Qin fiercely, then looked up at Supremacy Yun and Supremacy Beast. Finally, she chose to sit down. That was how she comforted herself. They were all sitting, but she was the only one standing. She seemed like a crane in a flock of chickens. After sitting down, Qin Feiyang no longer paid attention to the battlefield. Instead, he glanced at the disciples standing in the air above the islands. With his current cultivation, he could even see the deepest part of the island, the 10th island, clearly. Soon. A smile crept into his eyes as he murmured, "It's been a long time." In the air above the 9th island, at the front of the crowd, he saw a familiar figure. It was a woman in her 20s. She wore a light gold long dress. She was tall and slender, and her hair was like a waterfall. From afar, she looked like a fairy descending from heaven. That's right. This woman was Wang Yuer. After all these years, Wang Yuer had become even more attractive. Her entire body exuded the beauty of a mature woman. Moreover, she looked even more pure without using her charm technique. It was no wonder that so many young geniuses from the ancient realm wanted to pursue her. TSK. Missing out on her is the biggest regret of your life. Mu Qin noticed Qin Feiyang's gaze and looked up. When he saw Wang Yuer, he couldn't help laughing secretly. Don't talk nonsense. Qin Feiyang secretly glared at him. Now, what he was most afraid of was that these guys would blindly kick up a fuss and complicate the relationship that he had worked so hard to repair. What are you guys talking about? Why does it look so strange? Sheng Guanxiu looked at the two of them suspiciously. Nothing. Qin Feiyang hurriedly waved his hand. But suddenly, he then looked behind Wang Yuer. Behind Wang Yuer stood several young men and women. There were 7 people in total. 4 men and 3 women. The men's faces were like jade and the women were young and beautiful. They all exuded an extraordinary temperament. So it's these little guys, Qin Feiyang muttered. Yes. They were his younger siblings. The 7 of them each had their own merits. Qin Li, as his name suggested, had a fierce look in his eyes and demeanor. Facing him, it was as if he was being stared at by an eagle. Qin Yun appeared mature and intellectual. Qin Wan, natural and unrestrained, gentle and moving. Qin Xian, with his hands on his shoulders, appeared very lazy in his demeanor and eyes. Qin Ji, steady, arrogant, taciturn. As for the twins Qin Yi and Qin Yi, the former was mischievous and the latter was frivolous, just like a little playboy. Qin Feiyang had a deep impression of these 7 younger siblings. Especially Qin Li. Back then, he was even driven out of the capital for some reason. Of course. This was also the deep love and deep hatred. He hoped that these younger siblings now would not be like those princes and princesses in the past. After Qin Li was driven out of the capital, he also had a taste of what he had suffered back then. So, in contrast, Qin Li was more steady. As for Qin Yun, Qin Wan, Qin Xian, Qin Ji, Qin Yi, and Qin Feiyang, when he came back last time, he also made them suffer a lot. Especially Qin Yi and Qin Yi. At that time, when he sent them to the Black Tortoise world to train, they were only 2 little ones. Because they were too young, their mental endurance naturally could not be compared to Qin Xian and the others. It could be said that the time when they were training in the Black Tortoise world was a kind of torture and suffering for them. However, the experience this time also brought them quite a lot of benefits. Anyway, Qin Feiyang was very satisfied. These brothers and sisters of yours are all quite outstanding. Seeing Qin Feiyang sizing up Qin Li and the others, Sheng Guanqiu transmitted her voice and laughed. Originally, as Qin Feiyang's younger siblings, they could completely rely on Qin Feiyang's status in the ancient world to enjoy the best resources and treatment. However, the 7 of them did not do so. When they came to the ancient world and entered the human emperor palace, they were no different from ordinary disciples. No matter what resources they had, they relied on their own ability to fight for them. They had never mentioned to anyone that Qin Feiyang was their big brother. Master also said so. However, I still have to see it with my own eyes. Qin Feiyang smiled secretly. You still don't believe it? Sheng Guanqiu was slightly stunned and transmitted her voice. Wait a moment, I will let Master arrange for them to fight. Then, without waiting for Qin Feiyang's response, she transmitted her voice to Supreme Cloud. Master, let Qin Li and the others fight. Supreme Cloud looked at Sheng Guanqiu. Sheng Guanqiu pointed at Qin Feiyang who was sitting next to him. Supreme Cloud suddenly understood. It turned out that he was Qin Feiyang. After glancing at Qin Feiyang, Supreme Cloud looked at the battlefield. The outcome of the 2 young men was about to be decided. About 10 breaths later, one of the young men spat out a mouthful of blood and flew out on the spot, losing the ability to fight. The other young man did not fare well either. Because their strength was about the same, it was a narrow victory. The defeated young man reluctantly retreated from the barrier, while the victorious young man stood valiantly inside. Looking at this naive performance, Supreme Cloud shook his head and laughed. He asked, "Do you still want to continue?" "Of course." The young man nodded. Although he was stubbornly holding on, his courage was commendable. "Why do you still want to continue?" Mu Qing was puzzled. You don't know that the rules of the human emperor's palace are based on a 100-win streak system. Whoever obtains a 100-win streak first will be the champion. Sheng Guanqiu explained. So that's how it is. Mu Qing suddenly understood and asked, "Can't we take a break midway?" "We can't. If we can take a break, then won't the strong disciples be invincible?" Sheng Guanqiu shook his head. "We can't take a break," Mu Qing murmured and smiled. "Then this 100-win streak is still very difficult. The reward is so generous, how can it be easy?" Sheng Guanqiu smiled faintly. In the sky. Hearing the young man's words, Supreme Cloud glanced at the disciples in the sky above the islands and suddenly pointed at Qin Yi. "You go." "Me?" Qin Yi was stunned. He did not expect to be called out by Supreme Cloud in public. "Yes, you. Your cultivation is similar to his." Supreme Cloud nodded. "No." Qin Yi quickly said. "I didn't plan to participate at all. I just accompanied my sister to join in the fun. Why don't you let my sister go? My sister is very interested." "Call her sister." Qin Yi's face suddenly darkened. You are my sister. Qin Yi bared his teeth. Qin Yi's veins bulged as she waved her fist and said angrily, "Do you believe that I won't beat you up?" Qin Yi's face changed and he quickly hid behind Qin Li and Qin Yun. "Brother, sister, my sister is bullying me again. Hurry up and teach her a lesson." Qin Li and Qin Yun looked at each other and the corners of their mouths twitched. "How old are you? Why are you still so childish? It's really frustrating." Qin Feiyang couldn't help but shake his head and laugh when he saw this scene. When he first met these two little guys in the Great Qin Empire, they were also like this, one fighting to be the older brother and the other fighting to be the older sister. In the sky, Supreme Cloud's face was dark as he glared at Qin Yi. "Why are you talking so much nonsense?" Qin Yi pursed his lips and said unhappily, "Aren't you forcing me to be a prostitute? Even if you are Supreme Cloud, you can't be so overbearing." Supreme Cloud's gaze turned cold. Feeling Supreme Cloud's anger, Qin Yi hurriedly waved his hand and said, "No, no, no, don't do it. I'll go, okay?" Helpless, he could only enter the barrier. The young man in the barrier was a little depressed. Why did Supreme Cloud call this little monster to go? Wasn't he deliberately trying to break his winning streak? Qin Yi's aura was also at the half-ninth heavens realm. However, all the disciples in the human sovereign palace knew that this guy had a large number of god arts, and they were all high-level god arts. The most important thing was, although he was young, his combat experience and awareness were extremely terrifying. Not to mention the same level, even those 1 or 2 levels higher than him were not his opponent. At the same time, the other disciples couldn't figure it out. Why did Supreme Cloud call Qin Yi to go? Qin Yi looked at the young man and suddenly took out a healing pill and threw it to the young man. "Don't say that I bullied you, hurry up and heal yourself." The young man caught the pill and looked at Qin Yi in a daze. What did this mean? Qin Yi picked his ear with his little finger and said indifferently, "Don't get me wrong, I don't mean to look down on you, I just don't want to bully a seriously injured person." Although his words were pleasant to hear, his attitude was infuriating to anyone who saw it. Because this kind of attitude was born with a kind of contempt. The young man crushed the healing pill and roared, "Who are you looking down on? Even if I'm seriously injured, I can still fight you for 300 rounds. Boom! As his voice fell, the young man activated 2 perfect divine arts and aggressively attacked Qin Yi. Why are you so ungrateful? Qin Yi raised his eyebrows. Boom! As he waved his hand, 1 golden dragon after another appeared. There were a total of 99 of them, and they shook the surroundings. They formed a huge killing formation that carried a monstrous might as they charged forward. Even the void within the barrier began to tremble. Chapter 43-56. A perfect divine art, I don't think I've seen it before. Mu Qing muttered. There are countless divine arts in the world. It's normal that you haven't seen it before. But this kid's divine art has surpassed the boundary of a perfect divine art. It's almost half a step into the level of a heaven-defying divine art. Qin Feiyang glanced at the 99 golden dragons and smiled faintly. Now, it was too easy for him to tell the grade of the deity incantation. He could tell at a glance. Roar! The dragon roared. The killing array formed by the 99 golden dragons flooded the sky and blasted towards the 2 perfect divine arts of the young man. Accompanied by a deafening loud noise, the 2 perfect divine arts collapsed on the spot. The golden dragon killing array arrived in front of the young man. The young man's eyes were full of anger and despair. But suddenly, the killing array stopped half a meter away from the young man. The young man was so scared that he peed his pants on the spot. I told you to take a rest first, but you didn't believe me. Qin Yi sighed. With a wave of his hand, the golden dragon killing array dissipated. This kid is very benevolent. He didn't kill the other party, but his attitude is really asking for a beating, just like you. Mu Qing transmitted her voice. Just say it, don't drag everything to me. Qin Feiyang's face darkened. He was very satisfied with Qin Yi's performance. Because at least he didn't bully the weak. Next. Qin Yi looked at the people in the sky above the major islands with a listless look. He seemed to be very uninterested. However, at this moment, a sense of crisis swept over. The young man who was paralyzed in the void suddenly had a trace of resentment in his eyes. He took out a divine artifact and rushed towards Qin Yi. This was a supreme-grade divine artifact, and its sharpness swept across the sky. Sneak attack. Qin Yi's eyebrows suddenly raised, turned around and directly punched out. Immediately. Under the shocked gaze of countless disciples, Qin Yi only relied on one fist to smash the supreme-grade divine artifact in the young man's hand. How strong is his physical body and strength? He shattered a supreme-grade divine artifact with a single punch. I think the strength of his physical body has already surpassed the level of supreme-grade divine artifacts. Everyone was dumbfounded. The young man standing opposite Qin Yi was also dumbfounded. Immediately, he began to tremble. Shattering a supreme-grade divine artifact with his bare hands, this fleshly body was too strong. Was this the strength of this little freak? Qin Li and the others had always kept a low profile in the human emperor's palace. Therefore, apart from the upper echelons of the human emperor's palace, the disciples below did not know much about their strength. Therefore, at this moment, they were deeply shocked by the strength that Qin Yi had displayed. Whoosh! Qin Yi took a step forward and landed in front of the young man. He grabbed the young man's neck and hung him up in the air like a little chick. Do you really think I don't have a temper? Tell me, I've been giving in to you before. I didn't want to make things too ugly for you. His 5 fingers continued to exert force. The young man's face was flushed red as he struggled continuously. He was on the verge of suffocating. You can't kill people. Qin Li, who was watching the battle, coldly snorted. Tisk. Qin Yi glared at Qin Li with dissatisfaction, but he also loosened his hand and threw the young man out of the enchantment. He seemed to be rather fearful of Qin Li. But that was true. With Qin Li's fierce eyes, who wouldn't be afraid? Moreover, they were brothers who grew up together. Qin Yi knew Qin Li's character better than anyone else. I'll challenge you. A disciple of the 9th heaven state suddenly stood up and rushed into the enchantment like lightning. 9th heaven state minor completion? Looks like I'll have to give you 3 moves. Qin Yi sized up the disciple. Don't be arrogant. The disciple of the 9th heaven state minor completion laughed angrily and activated an auxiliary divine art. Like a ghost, he appeared behind Qin Yi in an instant and threw a punch at Qin Yi's head from an extremely difficult angle. That's it? Qin Yi laughed and also activated an auxiliary divine art and dodged like lightning. His speed was even faster than the disciples. This is a perfect auxiliary divine art. Lord Supreme Cloud, Lord Beast, this disciple is not convinced. Why did you give him so many powerful divine arts? The disciple immediately looked up at Supreme Cloud and the Beast Lord and shouted angrily. The Beast Lord and the Beast Lord looked at each other with an innocent expression. Whether it was Qin Yi or Qin Li and the others, they had all helped him in private. In fact, no one would believe it if they said it out loud. The divine arts that these brothers and sisters had mastered were all comprehended by themselves. Don't talk nonsense. This is my own comprehension. Qin Yi frowned. He hated it when people said that he relied on his connections. What? Your own comprehension? Not only the disciples standing opposite Qin Yi, but even the disciples in the air above the islands were in disbelief. No way. He's that strong? Even Mu Qing was shocked. I also can't believe it. Qin Feiyang shook his head. If Qin Yi had really comprehended all of these divine arts, then it was indeed shocking. Because even he couldn't do this back then. Although he had also comprehended divine arts and raised the level of his divine arts, most of them, such as the divine Dragon Island's Fire Phoenix art, were passed down from generation to generation. I knew that no one would believe me even if I said it. But this is the truth. Qin Yi took a step forward and used a perfect auxiliary divine art to increase his speed to the extreme. The disciple didn't have time to react and was severely injured by the punch. He is indeed powerful. He only relied on the strength of his body and his speed to suppress those at the initial ninth heaven state. Qin Feiyang nodded and smiled. These brothers and sisters didn't let him down. They also didn't disappoint the purple gold dragon blood flowing in their bodies. Next. Qin Yi was only at the half-ninth heaven state, but he had easily won dozens of battles. He even defeated a few disciples at the greater ninth heaven state during this period. Most importantly, from the beginning to the end, Qin Yi wasn't injured at all. What a monster. My hands are itching to fight. Suddenly, a burst of laughter sounded. A young man in black walked out step by step from the human race. This person was about 1.8 meters tall. His thick black hair fluttered even though there was no wind. His entire body exuded an extremely terrifying and ferocious aura, like a violent and ferocious beast. Wang Shiyu. This is the top 100 genius disciples of the Northern Human Emperor Palace. I didn't think that even he would come this time. I heard that his cultivation has already reached the peak ninth heaven state and he's only one step away from the half-eternal realm. Everyone immediately began to whisper. Wang Yu looked at Wang Shiyu and suddenly said, "You're at the peak ninth heaven state. Isn't it a bit bullying to challenge a half-ninth heaven state? Senior sister Yu, that's a bit too much. You saw it with your own eyes. Even those junior brothers and sisters at the greater ninth heaven state were no match for this little monster. Maybe I, at the peak ninth heaven state, can't beat him either." Wang Shiyu chuckled. Wang Yu raised her eyebrows. The difference between the half-ninth heaven state and the peak ninth heaven state was almost one realm. However, the rules of the competition didn't say that they couldn't challenge. What to do? The relationship between Wang Yu and Qin Feiyang was obvious to all, so over the years, she had taken care of Qin Feiyang's brothers and sisters as if they were her own. "Sister Yu, don't worry about me." Qin Yi grinned at Wang Yu, and then looked at Wang Shiyu. "I admit defeat." "What? Admit defeat?" Wang Shiyu was stunned. The others were also stunned. How could he admit defeat before the competition even started? Moreover, he had already won dozens of matches in a row. If he persisted, it would be 100 matches in a row. Qin Yi ignored everyone's gaze and walked straight out of the barrier and returned to Wang Yu. Qin Li looked at Qin Yi and said indifferently, "This choice is very rational. I was a little worried before that you would be impulsive and accept his challenge. Brother, have I always been a silly little brother in your eyes? This Wang Shiyu, I do have the confidence to defeat him, but I may also be injured. Then wouldn't the power of our bloodline be exposed?" Qin Yi looked at Qin Li unhappily. When Qin Li heard this, a smile appeared on his indifferent face, but he quickly covered it up. He glanced at his 6 brothers and sisters and asked, "Do you want the reward for first place?" "Whatever." Qin Xian shrugged, as if he wasn't interested at all. Qin Li's face darkened. No matter what, this kid always had an indifferent attitude. He said angrily, "You go and get the first 100 matches in a row." "Huh?" Qin Xian was stunned and frowned. "Why me? Didn't you say anything?" "Anything is fine. Don't talk nonsense. Go." Qin Li kicked out with a lot of force. Qin Xian immediately staggered and ran out. "Bastard, what kind of man is a sneak attack from behind?" Qin Xian turned his head and glared at Qin Li. To this, Qin Li was expressionless. "I'll settle the score with you later." Qin Xian glared at him fiercely, then activated teleportation and stepped into the barrier. He looked at Wang Shiyu and said, "A genius ranked in the top 100 actually came to bully a half-step 9th heaven realm person. You're really impressive. Come on, don't waste my time. I hope you can continue to be so arrogant later." Wang Shiyu chuckled. Shwa. In an instant, he disappeared from Qin Xian's sight. The best auxiliary divine art. You dare to take this out and embarrass yourself? Qin Xian's face was full of disdain. As he stepped out, he also disappeared from Wang Shiyu's sight. This speed was many times faster than Wang Shiyu. Pa. Soon. The crisp sound of a slap was heard. Wang Shiyu flew out on the spot, and there was an eye-catching palm print on his face. Wisps of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. How is this possible? It's actually a heaven-defying auxiliary divine art. This scene shocked everyone present. Wang Shiyu also stared at Qin Xian angrily. With this strength, you can be ranked in the top 100? With this, you dare to come to my brother? Don't you know that I'm a protective person? Killing intent surged in Qin Xian's eyes. He stepped on the heaven-defying auxiliary divine art and beat Wang Shiyu violently. In just a short while, Wang Shiyu was beaten black and blue. His face was swollen like a pig's head. His body was dripping with blood and he was in an extremely sorry state. Chapter 43-57. So powerful. I didn't expect Qin Xian's strength to be so powerful. Even Wang Shiyu can't fight back in front of him. He's really a low-profile person. Everyone's heart was in turmoil. A genius disciple in the top 100 was beaten to such a state. If they didn't see it with their own eyes, who would dare to believe it? Mu Qing said telepathically, "Old Qin," looking at them, "Do you feel like the student has surpassed the master?" Yes. Qin Feiyang didn't deny it. These brothers and sisters were indeed stronger than he was back then. Of course. It was not without reason that they were so strong now. This was because the Dragon God Palace back then, whether it was the cultivation environment or various resources, could not be compared to the current human Emperor Palace. Ah! There was a painful scream. Wang Shiyu was kicked out of the spirit barrier by Qin Xian and rolled miserably in the void. Since I've already made my move, then I'll be arrogant for a while. Other than the top 100 geniuses, don't join in the fun. Qin Xian looked at the people standing above the 10th island and waved his hand. All of you can come one by one. The 10th island used to be a medicine field and resource reserve in the Dragon God Palace. But now, as the number of disciples in the human Emperor Palace increased, the 10th island had become the residence of the disciples. However, it was not easy to enter the 10th island. One must have extraordinary talent and strength. In other words, all the disciples on the 10th island were the future pillars of the human Emperor Palace. At this very moment, Qin Xian wanted to challenge the elite of the elites on the 10th island, which was the so-called top 100 disciples. Qin Xian, heaven-defying auxiliary divine technique, let me have a taste of it. Bang! A monstrous aura erupted. A purple-robed youth charged out and activated his divine technique. His divine aura shook the surroundings. Heaven-defying divine technique. He's Li Tianqing. He's a peak 9 heavens realm genius disciple ranked 79th. Just like the rumor said, he has mastered a heaven-defying divine technique. Everyone whispered. However, Qin Xian had a look of disdain. Streaks of blood light emerged from his body and turned into a ferocious blood dragon that circled around him. The dragon's aura and murderous aura surged. This aura, it's actually a heaven-defying deity art. The disciples in the human Emperor Palace looked at the blood dragon bearing its fangs and brandishing its claws in disbelief. He had mastered 2 heaven-defying divine arts. Among them, there was even a heaven-defying deity art. Who could beat them? Boom! After a few rounds, Li Tianqing spat out a mouthful of blood and flew out of the battlefield in a sorry state. Next, Next. In less than an hour, Qin Xian easily obtained 100 consecutive victories. There was simply no match for him. I'll go. With such strength, he's still staying on the first island? Isn't he pretending to be a pig to eat the tiger? Everyone was very dissatisfied. Not bad. Although Qin Li and the others were standing behind Wang Yu, now, they were actually living on the first island. The overall strength of the first island was the weakest among all the major islands in the human emperor palace. Although there were rumors that they were all monstrous geniuses, rumors were only rumors. He had never seen them with his own eyes. Looking at it now, it was truly astonishing. I don't know. We're keeping a low profile. Qin Xian grinned and looked at the geniuses on the 10th island. Sorry, I accidentally revealed my strength. Next time, I'll remember to preserve my strength. The geniuses who had been defeated had unpleasant looks on their faces. All hail Brother Xian. A loud shout could be heard. Qin Xian turned his head toward the first island and saw a young man waving at him. His face darkened as he said furiously, "Impudent. Call me uncle. Piss off." The young man's face darkened. This voice, Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing exchanged glances. Why did it sound so familiar? They turned their heads to look, and a trace of astonishment crept up their faces. Why was it this kid? It was the narcissistic young man they had met in the Holy Dragon City, who gave them a strange sense of familiarity. He knows Qin Xian. Qin Xian, and he's calling him uncle? Is he really the descendant of one of our old friends? Mu Qing frowned. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and turned to Sheng Guanxiu and Miss Sky Fairy, asking, "Who's that kid?" The two of them looked over. Miss Sky Fairy shook her head with a smile and was about to speak. However, Sheng Guanxiu suddenly stopped her and said to Qin Feiyang, "Guess." Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched. "If I could guess, why would I ask you?" Miss Sky Fairy looked at Sheng Guanxiu suspiciously. Mu Qing turned to Miss Sky Fairy and said helplessly, "Don't tell me you don't know him. He called you aunt. It's none of your business." Miss Sky Fairy harumphed. At this moment, the young man also noticed Qin Feiyang and the other three sitting on the stone platform at the exit. What's going on? Why are Auntie and Auntie sitting with them? They don't seem to be disciples of the human emperor palace. The young man mumbled and flew toward the stone platform. At the same time, Qin Xian also left the barrier and landed beside Qin Li. He said unhappily, "Are you satisfied now? You're obviously stronger than me, but you don't want to go up and let me take the limelight. You have a problem with that?" Qin Li raised his eyebrows. If you weren't my brother, I would really beat you up." Qin Xian roared angrily. "Brother Xian, can you beat Brother Li?" Qin Yi's unexpected question made Qin Xian feel discouraged. Although this bastard was overbearing and ruthless, he was really strong. The young man landed on the stone platform and ran to Sheng Guanxiu and Miss Sky Fairy with a smile, saying, "When did you come? And why are you with them? You know them?" Miss Sky Fairy was suspicious. "I met them in the Holy Dragon City not long ago." The young man nodded and whispered in Miss Sky Fairy's ear, "Aunt, let me tell you, they don't look like good people. You have to be careful." "I think so too." Miss Sky Fairy nodded. Mu Qing looked at the two speechlessly and said unhappily, "Can't you talk in secret and pretend that we don't exist? You can hear it in such a low voice." The young man looked at Mu Qing in surprise. Mu Qing rolled her eyes. Qin Feiyang glanced at the young man. The more he looked at him, the more familiar he was. However, Sheng Guanxiu was obviously trying to keep him in suspense. He was really helpless. He looked at Qin Li and the others again. Although Qin Li, Qin Yun, Qin Wan, Qin Ji, and Qin Yi did not go up, it was not difficult to see that the strength of Qin Li and the other four was definitely extraordinary from Qin Yi and Qin Xian's performance. Immediately, he smiled slightly, got up and looked at Mu Qing. "It's about time, let's go." "You're leaving?" Mu Qing was stunned. "What's so interesting about this kind of little game?" Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. "What? The battle between the genius disciples of the human emperor palace is just a little game? This guy is too arrogant." The young man looked at Qin Feiyang in a daze. "You don't look like a big shot. Aren't you afraid of being beaten up by such arrogance? Don't talk nonsense if you don't understand." Shang Wanxiu glared at the young man and got up as well. The young man scratched his head and looked at Miss Fairy. What was going on? Miss Fairy also had a bitter smile. She could not understand Shang Wanxiu's current behavior. Who injured our disciple? But at this moment, this was accompanied by a ruthless shout. A small figure flashed in from the entrance like lightning and swept over the heads of Qin Feiyang and the others, going straight to Supreme Cloud and the beast race in the sky. Qin Feiyang looked at the back of this person and felt that it was somewhat familiar. This person was only about half a meter tall and looked to be about 5 or 6 years old. He was wearing a red dudu with a ringing bell hanging around his neck. He looked pink and chubby, like an auspicious doll. However, his body exuded an extremely shocking and ruthless aura. "Little demon boy." Shang Wanxiu transmitted his voice. "Little demon boy?" Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned. He tried to recall for a moment and suddenly understood. He said with a smile, "So it's him." Back then, in order to deal with the dragons, he joined forces with several half-step immortal realm experts. These people were the straw-shoe old man, the green-robed old woman, the burly man, the middle-aged couple, and the little demon boy now. He remembered that they had formed an alliance in the divine demon forest in the Nether King's Hell. Although he was familiar with them and had fought side by side, he still did not know their names. However, he had always been grateful to them. If it were not for their help, it would not have been so easy to defeat the dragons. He did not expect to meet this guy again. He also had a deep impression of the little demon boy. Although the little demon boy looked like a child, the straw-shoe old man and the others were very afraid of him back then. It seems that there is trouble again. Shang Wanxiu shook his head and sighed. Trouble? Qin Feiyang was stunned and the smile on his face gradually disappeared. He turned to look at Shang Wanxiu and found that Shang Wanxiu seemed to be looking at the little demon boy with some disgust. What was going on? The little demon boy was a comrade who had fought side by side. Why did he have such an attitude? Qin Feiyang looked at Miss Fairy again and found that Miss Fairy looked at the little demon boy the same way. Although you fought side by side to destroy the dragons back then, it was also because of this that the little demon boy became arrogant and did not take anyone seriously. He did not even show the slightest respect to Supreme Cloud and Supreme Beast. But in the past, Supreme Cloud and Supreme Beast were stronger than him, so he still had some concerns. But half a year ago, the little demon boy's cultivation had also broken through to the imperishable realm, which was on par with Supreme Cloud and Supreme Beast, so he became even more unscrupulous. Shang Wanxiu sighed. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang could not help but frown. As for old Master Yi Zhong, you know his character as well. He values relationships and is generous and benevolent. As long as you don't cause too much trouble, he won't get involved. So, without old Master Yi Zhong's restraint, Supreme Beast and Supreme Cloud can't do anything to him. Now, he is basically lawless in the ancient world. Shang Wanxiu transmitted his voice. Qin Feiyang looked up at the little demon boy, frowning. He did not expect the little demon boy to become like this. He was disappointed, but not too disappointed. Because he did not have much interaction with the little demon boy at all. He did not even know much about the little demon boy's character. He only knew that he was a violent person. Perhaps, the little demon boy was such a person. In other words, this was his nature. However, the little demon boy's behavior made him feel a little uncomfortable. It was understandable that he was arrogant. After all, not everyone had the same character as Yi Zhong. But shouldn't there be a limit to taking credit and being arrogant? Chapter 43-58. In the sky. The little demon child stood opposite Supreme Cloud and Supreme Beast, looking aggressive. Little demon child, what are you doing here? Supreme Cloud frowned. Didn't I say it very clearly just now? My disciple was bullied, so I came to you for an explanation. The little demon child said angrily. Disciple? Supreme Cloud and Supreme Beast looked at each other and said suspiciously, what disciple are you talking about? Why don't we know that you have a disciple? Do I need to report to you what I do? The little demon child sneered. No. You must make it clear. How do you want us to give you an explanation if you don't know? A trace of anger crept up Supreme Cloud's eyebrows. Everyone is so familiar with each other. Why don't Supreme Cloud and Supreme Beast know who the little demon child's disciple is? Mu Qing was puzzled. Not to mention Supreme Cloud and Supreme Beast, even we don't know. Shengguan Xiao and Miss Fairy shook their heads. The young man standing next to the two was also puzzled. Never heard of it. Who was the little demon child's disciple? Master. Suddenly, a voice sounded. A blood-stained young man rushed to the little demon child's side like lightning. This person was Wang Shiyu. Previously, he wanted to bully Qin Yi with his 9th Heaven Realm cultivation base, but he was beaten up by Qin Xian. It's him? Shengguan Xiao and Miss Fairy were stunned. How is it possible? He is the little demon child's disciple. What's going on? I've never heard of it before. Everyone at the scene was stunned. Supreme Cloud and Supreme Beast were the same. Looking at Wang Shiyu standing next to the little demon child, their faces were full of surprise. The little demon child looked at Wang Shiyu and said, Are you okay? Yes, I almost lost half of my life. Wang Shiyu looked aggrieved. A cold light flashed in the little demon child's eyes. He took out a healing pill and handed it to Wang Shiyu. Thank you, Master. Wang Shiyu took the healing pill and felt the countless incredulous eyes around him. His face was full of pride. You didn't expect it, did you? My master is the famous little demon child. It's not good. Qin Yun whispered. I didn't expect Wang Shiyu to be his disciple. You guys go first, I'll take care of it. Wang Yuer transmitted her voice to Qin Li and the others with a grave expression. No. We can't implicate you. Qin Li shook his head. That's right. I'm responsible for my own actions. I beat up Wang Shiyu. If this little demon child has any dissatisfaction, he can come at me. Qin Xian nodded. Don't let your emotions affect your decisions. If he knows your identities, then that's fine, because they will definitely give your big brother some face. But now, he doesn't know. You've been in the ancient realm for so many years. You should know what he's capable of. Those who offend him will not have a good ending. Wang Yuer thought to herself. But, Qin Li frowned. Wang Yuer said angrily, but what? A wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him. Let's go. All right. Qin Li nodded. But at this moment, Wang Shiyu suddenly pointed at Qin Xian and said resentfully, Master, it's him. The little demon child immediately looked at Qin Xian. Wang Yuer's expression changed. She took a step forward and shouted without looking back, Let's go. Qin Li waved his hand, rolled up his brothers and sisters, and turned to leave. Wang Yuer, do you want to protect them? Killing intent surged in the little demon child's eyes. Little demon child, I advise you not to kill them. Besides, this is just a competition between disciples. Now you're here to bully the weak. Don't you think it's beneath your status as the little demon child? Wang Yuer was not to be outdone. Her eyes flashed with cold light. What a sharp tongue. Do you think I'm afraid of you because you're related to Qin Feiyang? The little demon child was furious. His terrifying aura turned into an invisible torrent, and instantly blasted toward Wang Yuer. Puff! Wang Yuer spat out a mouthful of blood on the spot. Her face was pale. Sister Yuer. Qin Li and the others, who had escaped, immediately returned to Wang Yuer's side. Their faces were full of concern and anger. Little demon child, don't go too far. Supreme Cloud and Supreme Beast also stepped out and stood in front of Wang Yuer and Qin Li, glaring at the little demon child. The little demon child looked at Supreme Cloud and Supreme Beast and said, "Are you determined to protect them? There are winners and losers in the competition. Now your disciple is not as good as others. Who can you blame? If you don't want him to get hurt, don't let him participate in the competition." Supreme Cloud said in a low voice. You know this is a competition. Shouldn't a competition stop when it's over? Why did you beat him up like this? The little demon child shouted. Qin Li stared at the little demon child and said in a low voice, "Didn't Wang Shiyu think about this when he was about to bully my brother? He's at the peak of the ninth heaven's realm. How could he have the nerve to challenge a half-step ninth heaven's realm?" That's right. You should go and teach your disciple a lesson instead of finding trouble with us, Yi Zichen said. Qin Ji, who was a man of few words, also spoke, with a cold light in his eyes. But is your brother injured? The little demon child asked. Qin Li said, "That's because my brother admitted defeat." Admitted defeat? He can do such a thing without dignity. It can be seen that he's not a talent. The little demon child sneered. What did you say? Qin Yi glared at the little demon child. Did I say anything wrong? Only a good-for-nothing can surrender without a fight. The little demon child sneered. Qin Yi was so angry that he laughed and said, yes, I'm a good-for-nothing, but what about your disciple? He has dignity. He was beaten up because of his lack of strength, and now you come to seek justice for him. Is this the so-called dignity? I'm afraid he's more embarrassed than me now. How dare you humiliate me? Wang Shiyu's face was ferocious, and he roared, Master, he doesn't take you seriously at all. Kill him. The little demon child stared at Qin Yi, his eyes flashing with killing intent. Supreme Cloud glanced at Qin Feiyang sitting on the stone platform, and then looked at the little demon child and said, As an old friend, I kindly advise you not to make trouble here. Are you threatening me? The little demon child stared at Supreme Cloud. No. I'm advising you out of kindness. If you don't want to listen, then pretend I didn't say anything. And, if you really want to kill them, I won't stop you. Do as you please. Supreme Cloud said and retreated to the side. The corners of Supreme Beast's mouth lifted slightly, and he also retreated to the side. He looked at Wang Yuer and said, Yuer, you step back. Huh? Wang Yuer looked at Supreme Beast in a daze. What did he mean? The little demon child didn't know the identity of Qin Li and the others, but Supreme Cloud and Supreme Beast both knew. Logically speaking, shouldn't they protect them with all their strength? Why didn't they care now? Trust us. Supreme Cloud smiled secretly. Hearing this, Wang Yuer was even more puzzled, but looking at the confident two, she finally retreated to the side nervously. The unusual behavior of Supreme Cloud, Supreme Beast, and Wang Yuer made the little demon child quite confused for a moment. What did they mean? Did they really think he wouldn't dare to do it? Boom! His aura roared out. He swept in front of Qin Yi, raised his hand, and slapped Qin Yi's head. This is the price of provoking me. Die. Wang Shiyu laughed sinisterly. But it was also at this moment. Qin Feiyang, who was sitting on the platform, suddenly got up, and as he took a step forward, activated the moment of time, and instantly landed in front of Qin Yi. So fast. Supreme Cloud and Supreme Beast had been paying attention to Qin Feiyang. Therefore, they had seen the whole process with their eyes. This speed was simply too fast for them to catch up. Who is it? At the same time, the others also saw Qin Feiyang, and a trace of surprise crept up on their faces. The little demon child's face also changed slightly, but seeing that Qin Feiyang's face was unfamiliar, and the aura he exuded was not strong, he couldn't help but sneer. He really didn't know what was good for him. Following closely, the palm that was aimed at Qin Yi was aimed at Qin Feiyang. Qin Li and the others also looked at Qin Feiyang's back in surprise. Who was this person? He was not afraid of the little demon child to protect them. The next moment, an amazing scene appeared. They saw that this strange young man with an ordinary appearance and weak aura actually raised his big hand and easily grabbed the little demon child's arm without causing any trouble. How is this possible? The most shocked person was the little demon child. He had a cultivation of the Great Perfection Undead Realm. Even if he was also an expert of the Great Perfection Undead Realm, it was impossible to grab his wrist so easily. I haven't seen you for many years, and your temper has improved, Qin Feiyang said with a faint smile. With a little force from his 5 fingers, the little demon child's wrist was shattered on the spot with a crack. Blood flowed and dyed the void red. No way. Everyone present was dumbfounded. The little demon child, whose strength was comparable to Supreme Cloud and Supreme Beast, was so vulnerable in front of this person. Sister Qiu, what's going on? Who is he? Miss Fairy turned to look at Shengguan Qiu and asked. He was too strong. The terrifying little demon child was as weak as a chick in front of this person. Shengguan Qiu smiled without saying a word. Looking at the 7 people standing behind Qin Feiyang, he murmured, "You are really lucky to have such a great brother," looking at the little demon child again. He took a few steps back in horror and stared at Qin Feiyang. Who are you? Could it be Yi Zhong? No. If it was Yi Zhong, he would not change his appearance. Could it be those 4 old things? The 4 old things he was referring to were the 4 guardians of the ancient world. But that was not right. He knew the 4 guardians, and they never asked about the worldly affairs. We've known each other for many years, but I really didn't know that you were such a domineering and unreasonable person. Qin Feiyang shook his head. We've known each other for many years? The little demon child was even more surprised. Qin Feiyang took out a facial restoration pill. Facial restoration pill? When everyone saw the pill, they could not help but stare at Qin Feiyang's face. The 7 people standing behind Qin Feiyang could not help but move their feet and look at Qin Feiyang's profile. Although Shengguan Qiu, Supreme Cloud, and Supreme Beast already knew, they could not help holding their breaths at this moment. They knew that once Qin Feiyang showed his true appearance, it would cause a big storm. They were also looking forward to seeing the little demon child's expression when he saw Qin Feiyang's true appearance. Chapter 43-59. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, Qin Feiyang took the facial restoration pill. At that moment, his face began to change. It seems familiar. It's getting more and more familiar. Everyone looked at Qin Feiyang's face change in surprise. Finally, a face that made countless people crazy was clearly presented in front of them. You are. The little demon child looked at Qin Feiyang in disbelief. Must be dreaming. How could it be this person? Wang Xiyu, who was behind him, also rubbed his eyes hard. It's him. Qin Feiyang. He's Qin Feiyang. My God. What did I see? It's the legendary figure who once destroyed the dragons and saved billions of people in our ancient world. This is crazy. I never thought it would be him. After a brief moment of silence, the human emperor palace suddenly exploded. Everyone's face was full of worship and admiration, as if they were looking at a god. Qin Feiyang looked at the little demon child and said with a faint smile, "You didn't expect it to be me, did you?" His voice also changed back to its original state. Looking at this familiar face and listening to this familiar voice, the little demon child's eyes suddenly trembled and his face couldn't help but turn pale. "You weren't like this back then. Could it be that people in the world can't escape this rule? As their strength continues to grow, their character will also become more and more inflated?" Qin Feiyang looked at the little demon child indifferently. The little demon child's body trembled and his legs couldn't help but go soft. He had an impulse to kneel down. This was an instinctive fear. Because back then, he had witnessed how Qin Feiyang destroyed the dragons and destroyed the divine dragon island, so he knew Qin Feiyang's means. No one would have a good end if they angered this person. Qin Feiyang turned his eyes and looked at Wang Xiyu, who was standing behind the little demon child. Wang Xiyu was just a junior. How could he have the state of mind of the little demon child? He was so scared that he knelt in the void, trembling. Qin Feiyang asked with a smile, "Do you know who the person you want to kill is to me?" Wang Xiyu shook his head. When little demon child heard this, he also stared at Qin Li and the others in surprise. Could these people be related to Qin Feiyang? Qin Feiyang opened his mouth and said, "They are my blood brothers and sisters." What? Little demon child trembled both physically and mentally. These 7 people were actually Qin Feiyang's younger brothers and sisters? Needless to say, Wang Xiyu was so scared that he wet his pants on the spot. He never thought that Qin Li's group of 7 actually had such a big background. And before this, he actually wanted to kill Qin Feiyang's younger brother? Wasn't this courting death? Meanwhile, hearing Qin Feiyang's words, the countless disciples in the air above the islands looked at Qin Li's group of 7 with extreme shock. Qin Feiyang's brother and sister, what kind of status and glory was this? They really didn't expect that these 7 low-key people would have such an amazing identity. Not to mention anything else. Just based on this point, the 7 of them had the capital to look down on everything. Why didn't I realize it before? Otherwise, if I married any one of the 3 sisters, would have a meteoric rise in the future. Many disciples were annoyed. If they could become Qin Feiyang's brother-in-law, wouldn't they be able to do whatever they wanted in the ancient realm in the future? Brother. Is it really you? Qin Li's group of 7 looked at Qin Feiyang and still found it hard to believe. Qin Feiyang turned to look at the 7 of them and said with a smile, "Who else could it be if not me?" Brother, the 7 of them looked at Qin Feiyang's face. Even Qin Li, who had a cold personality, couldn't help but have tears in his eyes. And Wang Yuer next to him. Tears flickered in her eyes. On the other side, Miss Fairy stood on the stone platform and also looked at Qin Feiyang in disbelief. The young man next to her was even more exaggerated. His mouth was wide open and his eyes were about to pop out. Brother, when she came back to her senses, Qin Yi, the little girl, immediately threw herself into Qin Feiyang's arms. Smelling the familiar smell, she scolded with a sobbing tone, "You still know to come back? Do you know how much we missed you?" Qin Feiyang stretched out his hand and patted the little girl's shoulder. He said with a smile, "I missed you guys too." Then, he looked at Qin Li's group of 6 and waved his hand, Come, let Big Brother take a good look." Qin Li's group of 6 ran up with tears in their eyes. Sure enough, they are all his younger brothers and sisters. Looking at this scene, the expression in everyone's eyes changed. Could they be so strong? No wonder they could create their own divine arts. No wonder Wang Yuer took care of them so much. They were all Qin Feiyang's younger brothers and sisters. Oh my God. I really envy them. Why wasn't I born in such a family? If Qin Feiyang was my big brother, how good would that be? Not bad. They are all as handsome as me. Qin Feiyang looked at Qin Li, Qin Ji, Qin Xian, and Qin Yi and smiled. Pfft. Hearing this, everyone couldn't help but laugh. They didn't expect this guardian to be so humorous. The corners of Qin Li's group of 4 couldn't help but twitch as if they were complaining about Qin Feiyang. Saying such words in front of so many people, wasn't it embarrassing for them? Qin Feiyang looked at Qin Yun, Qin Wan, and Qin Yi and said with a smile, "And you 3 girls, you have all become big girls. How are you? Do you have a boyfriend? Brother?" When the 3 heard this, their cheeks suddenly turned red and they couldn't help but angrily stare at Qin Feiyang. "Can't you pay attention to the situation when you speak?" "Yes. Brother-in-law, I am their boyfriend." At the same time, many men roared in their hearts. They really hoped that they were. Unfortunately, how could he take a fancy to them? Huh. Qin Feiyang laughed loudly and gently pushed Qin Yi away. He reached out his hand and gently combed Qin Yi's somewhat messy hair. He said with a smile, "Don't cry. If you cry again, you'll become an ugly duckling. No one will like you. You are the ugly duckling." Qin Yi glared at Qin Feiyang with dissatisfaction. How could he say that to his own sister? But in her heart, it was especially warm. So gentle. I really want to be Qin Yi. Yes, I also want such a gentle brother. Many women looked at Qin Yi with envy. Because they could all see that Qin Feiyang really doted on these 3 sisters. Qin Feiyang patted Qin Yi's head and said with a smile, "I want to say a few words to your sister Yu. Then you can't bully sister Yu. She has taken care of us all these years." Qin Yi said. "When did I bully her?" Qin Feiyang was speechless. "You bullied her in the past." Qin Yi pouted. Qin Feiyang's face darkened, and he said angrily, "Little brat, don't meddle in adult matters." "How am I little?" Qin Yi puffed out her chest and raised her back, approaching Qin Feiyang. Okay. It's my fault. Qin Feiyang's face was bitter. This girl didn't know how to be reserved. How could she be like this? Only then did Qin Yi smile proudly. So what if he was the guardian of the ancient world? So what if he was strong? In front of this super cute sister of mine, didn't he still have to raise his hands and surrender? Qin Feiyang shook his head helplessly, walked to Wang Yu, opened his arms, and said with a smile, "Long time no see." Long time no see. Wang Yu calmed down the emotions in her heart and went forward to hug Qin Feiyang gently. A charming smile also appeared on her face. Damn. Their relationship doesn't seem to be ordinary. Everyone murmured. Many people in the ancient world knew that Wang Yu, was related to Qin Feiyang, but they didn't know what the relationship was. Although the relationship between the two wasn't very clear now, it wasn't difficult to see from their smiles that it was definitely not ordinary. "How have you been these years?" Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. And Wang Yu nodded and asked, "How about you?" Qin Feiyang said, "I'm not bad either. Thank you for taking care of these little guys all these years." Wang Yu glanced at Qin Li and the others and said with a smile, "They are your younger siblings, which means they are mine. It is my responsibility to take care of them." "What do you mean?" "It sounds a little ambiguous. Are they a couple?" "But I heard that Qin Feiyang seems to have married another woman. What's going on?" Everyone looked at the two of them suspiciously. Qin Yi looked at the crowd behind her proudly and said, "You don't know, right? Sister Yu, is also my brother's sister." "I see." Everyone came to a realization. This should be the relationship between the two of them. But even if she was his sister, it was still enviable. However, when Wang Yu heard Qin Yi's words, there seemed to be a trace of disappointment on her face, but it wasn't obvious and was quickly replaced by a smile. Qin Feiyang glanced at the countless disciples of the human emperor palace and said with a smile of praise, "I have been watching your sparring. Whether it is the winner or the loser, they are all very good. They are much stronger than us back then. Huh? Much stronger than you back then? Sir, please don't joke around, okay? How can we compare to you? All the disciples were flattered. Of course. In some aspects, you are indeed inferior to us back then. The most obvious is that your combat experience and awareness are obviously insufficient. But I also know that this is not your fault. After all, the current ancient world has entered a period of peace. I also hope that this peace can continue. As disciples of the human Emperor Palace, you are the role models for others. So in the future, you must be a good example and work hard to maintain this rare peace. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. Yes. The disciples suddenly couldn't help but roar loudly as if they had been injected with chicken blood. Qin Feiyang nodded with relief. As long as the disciples of the human Emperor Palace were responsible, then no matter how chaotic the ancient world was in the future, it would not be like before. Immediately, he looked at the little demon child again. Qin Feiyang, this is a misunderstanding. The little demon child's eyes trembled and he hurriedly explained, looking extremely flustered. I saw it with my own eyes. Is this still a misunderstanding? Qin Feiyang said with a pleasant smile, without the slightest threatening aura. But the little demon child couldn't help but be afraid. He stammered and couldn't say a complete sentence for a long time. Everyone looked at the little demon child with a look of disbelief. The little demon child, who had always been ruthless and lawless, didn't even dare to breathe loudly in front of Qin Feiyang. Was this the deterrent power of Qin Feiyang? It really opened their eyes. Chapter 4360. Qin Li, Qin Feiyang said. Qin Li was slightly taken aback and quickly walked to Qin Feiyang's side. Big brother. Kill Wang Xiyu. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. What? Wang Xiyu's eyes trembled and he hurriedly kowtowed. Lord, please spare my life. I won't do it again. Please be magnanimous and don't bother with a nobody like me, don't say that I'm protecting you. If Qin Yi had accepted your challenge before, even if you crippled him, I wouldn't have said anything because his skills were not as good as yours. But what about you? I can understand that you're not convinced after being defeated by Qin Xian. After all, it's normal for young people to be impetuous. But you shouldn't have asked your master to come forward, and you shouldn't have used your master's hand to get rid of him. Maybe you think that you're one of the top 100 disciples of the human Emperor Palace and your future is limitless. If I kill you, it will definitely be a loss to the human Emperor Palace. But let me tell you, even if the top genius of the ancient world stands in front of me, I won't bother to look at him as long as his character isn't good enough. Because I can create a large number of geniuses with just a casual move. Qin Feiyang said faintly. Wang Xiyu's face was pale. How could he be so unlucky to provoke such a big shot? Let's do it. Qin Feiyang looked at Qin Li. Qin Li nodded and stepped forward, slapping at Wang Xiyu. The little demon child, who was standing in front of Qin Feiyang, clenched his fists. He was actually very unconvinced, but he could only watch helplessly. I can't die, I don't want to die. Wang Xiyu suddenly got up, activated all the divine arts, and madly attacked Qin Li. You're courting death. Qin Li said coldly. Accompanied by a deafening dragon roar and a loud phoenix cry, a purple-gold divine dragon and a flaming divine phoenix suddenly roared out, their divine power shaking all directions. Divine dragon art, fire phoenix art? Qin Feiyang was stunned. And these two divine arts had surpassed the boundary of a perfect divine art. Boom! As the purple-gold divine dragon and the inferno divine phoenix charged over, the already severely injured Wang Xiyu screamed miserably as blood splattered everywhere. Divine dragon technique, fire phoenix technique, this is Qin Feiyang's divine technique. Now, the identities of Qin Li and the others are even more certain. Everyone's pupils shrank. Wang Xiyu was really unlucky. Of all the people he could provoke, he just had to provoke Qin Feiyang's younger brothers and sisters. Qin Feiyang looked at the little demon child and asked, "Do you have any objections to Wang Xiyu's death?" "No." Little demon child shook his head. "Then in the future, don't even think about taking revenge on Qin Li." Qin Feiyang smiled. "I don't dare." The little demon boy lowered his head, his eyes full of fear. Actually, Qin Feiyang suddenly changed the topic and said, "You deserve to die too." The little demon child trembled and immediately knelt down in the void in fear. Qin Feiyang said, "It's obvious that your disciple is looking for trouble for no reason, but you can't distinguish right from wrong and indulge him. We have known each other for so many years. You should know that I hate this kind of person the most." I know. The little demon child nodded repeatedly. "However, you have done your best in the battle with the dragons. For the sake of our past friendship, I will not pursue this matter. I hope you can take care of yourself in the future." Qin Feiyang advised earnestly. "I will." The little demon child nodded. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. "Then if you have time tonight, let's go to the 9th Heaven Palace. We haven't seen each other for many years. Let's get together as old friends." "Okay." The little demon child nodded again, not daring to act rashly the whole time. "Get up quickly. We used to fight side by side. There's no need to be so estranged over such a small matter." Qin Feiyang helped the little demon child up with his own hands. Only then did the little demon child realize that he was already drenched in cold sweat, and his legs were a little weak. Qin Feiyang is Qin Feiyang. If we had killed his disciple, wouldn't he have fought us to death? Cloud and Beast looked at each other. Although Qin Feiyang had left the ancient world for many years, his deterrence was no less than that of the past. Qin Feiyang patted the little demon child on the shoulder, looked at the disciples above the major islands, and smiled faintly. "Seeing that you are all so outstanding, I'm very pleased. This time, it's not easy for me to come back, so I'll leave you with a gift." "What gift?" Everyone was surprised. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and as the law of time and space surged out, a huge time array appeared out of thin air. "What is this?" Everyone was surprised. "It seems to be a time array," Cloud and Beast murmured. "This is a time array that lasts 5,000 years a day. I hope it will be helpful to your cultivation in the future." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and waved his hand gently. The time array immediately fell and merged with the void of the entire human emperor palace. "What? A time array that lasts 5,000 years a day? Are you kidding me? Is there such a terrifying time array in the world? This is the first time I've heard of it. How strong is Qin Feiyang's cultivation now?" Whether it was the disciples or the higher-ups of the human emperor palace, they were all shocked. Including Cloud and Beast. This had exceeded their understanding of time arrays. "Our big brother is really amazing." Qin Xian grinned. Qin Li, Qin Yun, Qin Wan, Qin Ji, Qin Yi, and Qin Yi nodded and looked at Qin Feiyang with admiration. In this life, they were most proud of having such an amazing brother. "All right. You guys continue." Qin Feiyang smiled and looked at Wang Yu, Qin Li, and the others. "You guys go to the 9th Heaven Palace tonight as well." "Okay." They nodded. Qin Feiyang looked at Beast and smiled. "We'll catch up later tonight." Cloud scolded with a smile, "Kid, you didn't greet us for half a day. I thought you forgot about us." "How is that possible?" Qin Feiyang laughed and landed on the stone platform. He looked at Mu Qing and said, "Let's go to the south, west, and north of the human emperor palace to take a look." Miss Celestial looked at Qin Feiyang blankly for a while. When she came back to her senses, she quickly said, "I'll lead the way." "Okay, then I'll have to trouble you." Mu Qing nodded and smiled. She seemed very happy. The four stepped out of the human emperor palace. You're leaving already? Elder Yu, who was sitting cross-legged outside, looked at Sheng Guanqiu and Miss Celestial Immortal and asked with a smile. Yes. Both of them nodded. Suddenly, Elder Yu looked at Qin Feiyang, and his expression was filled with bewilderment. Why does he look so familiar? Could he be? But at this time, Qin Feiyang and the others had already left without looking back. Auntie, wait for me. But suddenly, the young man chased after them. Brat, wait a moment. Elder Yu quickly grabbed the young man. Elder Yu, what's wrong? The young man looked at Elder Yu in confusion. Let me ask you, is that man Qin Feiyang? Elder Yu asked with difficulty. Didn't you see it with your own eyes? He is my second uncle, Qin Feiyang. After saying that, the young man hurriedly chased after Qin Feiyang and the others. It's really him. Elder Yu was shocked. No wonder Sheng Guanqiu and Miss Celestial accompanied him personally. It was him. Below. Miss Celestial looked at Qin Feiyang and said with a wry smile, I didn't expect it to be you. Sister Qiu, you've been hiding it from me. Sheng Guanqiu said with a smile, I just wanted to give you a surprise. Miss Celestial looked at her speechlessly. Then, she glanced at Mu Qing and asked suspiciously, then who are you? Me? Mu Qing waved her hand and said, I'm Qin Feiyang's follower. Don't joke around. Miss Celestial's face darkened. Sheng Guanqiu shook her head and said with a smile, he's Mu Qing. You may not have seen him, but you must have heard of his name. Mu Qing? Miss Celestial was slightly stunned. She lowered her head and pondered for a moment. Then, she said in surprise, is he the Mu Qing who has opened the all-seeing eye and has been going against Qin Feiyang and the others? Ahem. I don't think I've been going against him. We were already friends when we entered the ancient world. Mu Qing quickly explained. He could not let Miss Celestial have a bad impression of him because of this matter. Come on. I know you. You also know Mu Tianyang. You were disciples of the Ninth Heaven Palace back then. Miss Celestial despised him. Mu Qing laughed awkwardly. It turned out that she knew about them. It seemed that this explanation was a little superfluous. I say, can you be more reserved? Don't you know that you have to take your time to pursue a woman? Qin Feiyang looked at Mu Qing speechlessly and opened a space-time passage to the south. Second uncle, wait for me. However, at this moment, an anxious voice was heard. Qin Feiyang and the other three looked up and saw the young man running down in a hurry. Second uncle? Who is he calling? Qin Feiyang looked at Mu Qing and the other two suspiciously. He's definitely not calling me. Mu Qing shook her head. The young man ran to the four of them, panting. He looked at Qin Feiyang with a fiery gaze. Why didn't you stay in the human emperor palace? Why did you come to us? Sheng Guanqiu frowned. Auntie, with my cultivation level, you can't be thinking of letting me participate in the competition, right? I'm not even qualified to be cannon fodder in front of those geniuses. We'll talk about it later. Now that second uncle is back, I have to follow him and show him filial piety. The young man bared his teeth. Aunt? Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing looked at Sheng Guanqiu in shock. What was going on? Sheng Guanqiu sighed helplessly and said, his name is Yi Xiaochuan, my sister's son. Yi Xiaochuan? Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing were stunned. The next moment, they exclaimed in unison, your sister's son? Yes. Sheng Guanqiu nodded. I'll go. Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing looked at Yi Xiaochuan in disbelief. Wasn't Shengguan Fenglan Sheng Guanqiu's sister? Because Sheng Guanqiu only had one sister. In other words, this kid in front of them was Shengguan Fenglan and Huiyi's son? No wonder he looked familiar. Hello, second uncle. Wang Xiaochuan moved closer to Qin Feiyang, not showing any signs of unfamiliarity. He chuckled and said, "If I knew you were second uncle, I would have definitely brought you to the Heaven Immortal House to drink a few cups in the Holy Dragon City to welcome you back." Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched when he heard this. He mentioned drinking as soon as he opened his mouth. As expected of Hui Yi's son, because Hui Yi was an alcoholic. However, he really couldn't accept it for a moment. Hui Yi and Shangguan Fenglan's son was already so old. Now you're in a worse situation. Mu Qing transmitted her voice to him. Why? Qin Feiyang didn't understand. Given your relationship with Hui Yi, he must have gone to the Great Qin to visit your parents often. So Emperor Hong, Emperor Chen, and your parents must know about Yi Xiaochuan's existence. When you go back, they will urge you to have a few children with the mermaid princess. Mu Qing laughed secretly. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but smile bitterly when he heard this. They were all so fast. He was under a lot of pressure. Chapter 43-61. That's not right. You're Hui Yi's son, why would you call him second uncle? Also, why would you call her aunt? Mu Qing pointed at Qin Feiyang and Miss Tian Xian as she looked at Yi Xiaochuan and asked suspiciously. Usually, aunt referred to the father's elder sister or younger sister. But Miss Tian Xian was not Hui Yi's elder sister or younger sister. Second uncle and my father are as close as brothers. If I don't call him second uncle, what should I call him? As for aunt, she's my father's adopted sister. As his nephew, I naturally have to call her aunt. Yi Xiaochuan explained. Adopted sister? Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing looked at each other. What was going on? Facing this problem, Miss Tian Xian was somewhat helpless. What's going on? Qin Feiyang looked at Sheng Guanqiu suspiciously. This matter is indeed a little funny. Doesn't brother-in-law like to drink? Especially the wine from Heaven Immortal Tower. But he's someone who cares about his face and doesn't want to ask Miss Tian Xian for help. In the end, he thought of such an idea, to recognize Miss Tian Xian as his adopted sister. After becoming brother and sister, if he wants to drink, Miss Tian Xian will give it to him. Sheng Guanqiu smiled bitterly. Qin Feiyang was stunned. Then, a bitter smile appeared on his face. As expected of Hui Yi, he could even think of such a rotten idea. Don't mention it. When you mention it, I regret it. Why did I agree to it in a moment of foolishness? During these years, he has taken advantage of my Heaven Immortal Tower many times. The most overbearing thing is that he relied on his identity as a sworn brother to make me send wine to the Nine Heavens Palace every time. He is truly like a boss. Miss Tian Xian shook her head. Qin Feiyang was amused. Sure enough, this guy was a headache. Yi Xiaochuan looked at Miss Tian Xian righteously and said, although I'm his son, I don't like him. Aunt, don't worry, I'll always be on your side. Scram. What's the difference between you and your father? Miss Tian Xian rolled her eyes. Yi Xiaochuan laughed dryly, looking extremely embarrassed. Go back quickly. Although you can't participate in the competition, you can still learn a lot from watching the battles of the other disciples. Sheng Guanqiu said. Auntie, Yi Xiaochuan felt wronged. Seeing that Sheng Guanqiu was unmoved, he looked at Qin Feiyang for help. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. Since he's already here, let him follow. But, Sheng Guanqiu frowned. But before Sheng Guanqiu could say anything, Yi Xiaochuan said happily, thank you, second uncle. Sheng Guanqiu sighed helplessly. He looked at Qin Feiyang and said, don't spoil him. The more you spoil these kids, the more they'll push their luck. Are you still my aunt? Hearing this, Yi Xiaochuan looked at Sheng Guanqiu unhappily. It's because I'm your aunt that I know what kind of person you are. I'm telling you, you're not allowed to ask your Uncle Qin for wine. He doesn't drink either. Shangguan Xiao said with a straight face. Ah. Uncle, you don't drink? Yi Xiaochuan looked at Qin Feiyang in astonishment, as if he had discovered a new continent. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded and smiled. Your father and mother both know about this. Didn't they tell you? No. Yi Xiaochuan shook his head and laughed. But my father did say that you must have a lot of good wine with you. Qin Feiyang was confused. I don't drink. How can I have good wine? Yi Xiaochuan bared his teeth and said, You don't drink, but you're a big shot. You must have some good wine with you to entertain your friends or guests, right? So you're shamelessly following me because you want to get some divine wine from me. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. Divine wine? What did you say? You have divine wine? Yi Xiaochuan's eyes lit up. Yes. I have a lot of divine wine in my collection. Qin Feiyang nodded. Uncle, my dear uncle, give me some. Let me have a taste. Even if it's just a small cup, I haven't had any divine wine in my life. Yi Xiaochuan immediately went up to Qin Feiyang and massaged Qin Feiyang's back and shoulders. His face was full of flattery. Looking at this little guy, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but shake his head and laugh. He was indeed the same as his father. However, Shangguan Xiao and Miss Fairy's faces darkened. This little brat really didn't change. They felt helpless. Shangguan Fenglan was good from head to toe. Why did she inherit Hui Yi's genes? Let's go. Don't look for me when it comes to alcohol. Look for your Uncle Crazy and Uncle Wolf King. They are the real kindred spirits of your father. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled, then stepped into the space-time passage without looking back. You brat, behave yourself. Otherwise, I'll beat you up. Shangguan Xiao and Miss Fairy glared at Yi Xiaochuan and also turned to enter the space-time passage. Yi Xiaochuan's face was full of grievance. Mu Qing rolled his eyes and put his arm around Yi Xiaochuan's shoulder and said, Brat, don't be dejected. Women are like this. They have long hair and short vision. I think so too. Yi Xiaochuan nodded. But then. He turned to look at Mu Qing and asked suspiciously, Who are you? You brat, you have good eyesight. You don't even know your uncle? Mu Qing's face darkened. Uncle? Yi Xiaochuan was stunned. Yes. I'm your uncle. Didn't your aunt tell you? Mu Qing nodded. Is there such a thing? Yi Xiaochuan scratched his head. It didn't seem so. Aunt had always been single. Sigh. Mu Qing shook his head and sighed. He patted Yi Xiaochuan's shoulder and said, Actually, I've always liked your aunt, but I didn't dare to confess. So you're secretly in love. Yi Xiaochuan nodded in realization. You can say that. Brat, they look down on you, but uncle admires you very much. How about it? Help uncle? I have a lot of divine wine here. Mu Qing bared his teeth. The corner of Yi Xiaochuan's mouth twitched. He hadn't even confessed successfully, and he already called himself his uncle. Moreover, he said it so naturally. How could he be more shameless than him? You don't want divine wine? I even have supreme-grade divine wine here. Mu Qing smiled seductively. Think about it. When Yi Xiaochuan heard the word supreme-grade divine wine, he quickly nodded. That's right. Let's talk as we walk. Mu Qing bared his teeth, hooked his arm around Yi Xiaochuan's shoulder, and entered the space-time passage. It really seemed like they were in cahoots. What? Qin Feiyang returned to the ancient world? Is this true? Don't joke with us. Of course it's true. One of my nephews is a disciple of the human emperor palace. He saw it with his own eyes. And it's said that he's even stronger than before. Little demon kid, you know. He's at the peak of the undead realm, but he couldn't even fight back in front of him. Also, there are a few people named Qin Li, Qin Xian, Qin Ji, Qin Yun, Qin Wan, Qin Yi, and Qin Yi. They're actually his biological brothers and sisters. The news of Qin Feiyang's return spread in the Divine Land at a terrifying speed. The Treasure Pavilion. There was a lot of discussion. Only then did the staff and guards inside, including the young talents who had been clamoring non-stop, realize that the person who was with Shangguan Xiu at that time was Qin Feiyang. Oh my god. We're actually fighting with Qin Feiyang for a woman? Aren't we courting death? Fortunately, he has a good temper. Otherwise, we would all be finished. I didn't expect it to be him. No wonder the chief pavilion master is so close to him. At the same time, the south, the west, and the east. There was also news of Qin Feiyang. Have you heard? Qin Feiyang set up a 5,000 years a day time formation in the Human Emperor Palace in the south. A 5,000 years a day time formation is really hard to imagine. Not to mention anything else, just based on this time formation, I'll work hard to become a disciple of the Human Emperor Palace. A 5,000 years a day time formation was simply unimaginable for the creatures of the ancient world. Not to mention the ancient world, when Qin Feiyang had just entered the Sky Cloud realm, only the dragons, the Feng people, and the Kirin clan had a 5,000 years a day time formation. Therefore, this was undoubtedly a stone that stirred up 1,000 ripples, and countless people went crazy. And Qin Feiyang not only set up a 5,000 years a day time formation in the northern and southern Human Emperor Palaces, but also in the eastern and western Human Emperor Palaces. After all, they were all part of the Human Emperor Palace. They couldn't be biased. At the same time, he went to the southern, eastern, and western Human Emperor Palaces and saw many familiar faces. For example, the Ice Emperor, the Rain Emperor, Yi Qing, Yi Shuai, Li Xiaofei, and the former divine generals of the Dragon Slayer Palace. There were once 108 divine generals of the Dragon Slayer Palace. Among them, Xia Yuan and half of the divine generals were now in his Black Tortoise realm because Xia Yuan and the others were subordinates of Qin Badian and Lu Zhengyang. Moreover, they were all people of the great Qin. Back then, they followed Qin Badian and Lu Zhengyang into the ancient world. Therefore, for both public and private reasons, Qin Feiyang had to take good care of them. The remaining divine generals were the subordinates of Supreme Cloud and Supreme Beast. These divine generals all stayed in the ancient world. Now, they held important positions in the 4 Human Emperor Palaces and held important positions. Of course, their strength was also stronger than before. At night, the sun set. A bright full moon slowly rose from the horizon. Empyrean Palace. At this moment, whether it was the mountain peak or the stone stairs leading to Empyrean Palace, there was a sea of people. These people were all disciples of Empyrean Palace. Didn't senior brother Lunatic say that senior brother Qin and the others would come to our Empyrean Palace in the evening? It's already dark now, why haven't they arrived yet? Everyone whispered and looked at the void, nervous and expectant. In front of the crowd, a white-haired old man stood against the wind, watching the night fall, and couldn't help but mutter anxiously, "What are these 2 brats doing? Don't they know that this old man is waiting for them?" This old man was the guardian of Empyrean Palace, Shangguan Fenglan's teacher, Elder Wei. He was an old man of noble character and prestige. Even Lunatic was extremely respectful to this person. The people he was waiting for were Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf. As for Lunatic, in the afternoon, he had already brought Zhuo Shaoxian into Empyrean Palace. For Qin Feiyang and the others, they didn't have deep feelings for Empyrean Palace. The reason why Empyrean Palace was so important was entirely because of Hui Yi and the Fire Lotus. However, for Lunatic, this was his home. He grew up here. His adoptive father and grandfather had lived here all their lives. Therefore, this was already a part of his life that he couldn't give up. Chapter 4362. Swish. All of a sudden, a teleportation altar appeared. 3 figures gradually appeared. The one in the lead was Yi Zhong. Behind him were Yi Cheng and Yi Shui. After not seeing each other for many years, Yi Cheng looked even more energetic and radiant. Yi Shui was dressed in a snow-white dress. Her black hair was like a waterfall, and her temperament was extraordinary. Many young disciples couldn't help but be infatuated with her. Greetings, Elder Yi. Elder Wei hurriedly stepped forward to greet them. Don't be so polite. Yi Zhong waved his hand and looked amiable. He didn't put on any airs at all. Greetings, Grandpa Wei. Yi Shui also bowed to Elder Wei politely. Good, good, good. Elder Wei nodded repeatedly and said with a hoarse smile, "You've become much prettier than the last time I saw you. I wonder which man will be so lucky to marry you in the future." Yi Shui blushed and couldn't help but lower her head shyly. She seems to be Yi Zhong's granddaughter. The rumors are true. She's as beautiful as a flower and as beautiful as the moon. There seemed to be a fire burning in the hearts of many disciples. But more of them were depressed. They could only look up to a goddess of this level. Yi Cheng glanced around and asked, "Where are they?" Elder Wei said with a smile, "Little madman is back, and he brought back a nice little girl." Really? Yi Cheng and Yi Shui were surprised. Although I've just met this girl, she's humble and knowledgeable. I really think she's good. It's said that she's from the sky cloud realm. Elder Wei smiled. This little lunatic is really lucky. Yi Cheng laughed. Yi Zhong asked, "Is Elder Mo very happy to see him bring back a granddaughter-in-law?" Elder Mo was the first elder. Of course. After all, this is his only wish now. Elder Wei chuckled. What about Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf? Yi Shui asked. The white-eyed wolf doesn't know. But isn't Qin Feiyang in the divine land? Don't you know? This old man originally thought that you two would come together. Old Wei was doubtful. He is indeed in the divine prefecture. But as you know, he has a lot of old friends in the divine prefecture, so he must be traveling around. Don't worry about him. Let's go up first. Yi Zhong smiled. Old man Wei said, "Then you go up first. This old man will continue to wait for them here." Yi Zhong said unhappily, "They are just a few juniors. Do you need to personally wait for them here?" You can't say that. After all, they are the heroes of our ancient world. Besides, other than the few of them, there will definitely be many old friends who will come after hearing the news. Elder Wei said with a hoarse laugh. Yi Zhong shook his head and laughed in spite of himself. He said, "All right then. Let's go up first and take a look at old man Mo's granddaughter-in-law." Not long after Yi Zhong and the others entered the Nine Heavens Palace, a teleportation altar appeared. Everyone looked over and saw a man and a woman walking out. It was Supreme Cloud and Supreme Beast. I'll go. The famous Supreme Cloud and Supreme Beast actually came in person. Senior Brother Qin and his companions are really prestigious. All the disciples of the Nine Heavens Palace were shocked. As soon as Supreme Beast appeared, he looked at Old Man Wei and scolded, "You old bastard, didn't you say you would come to the Divine Prefecture to drink with me when you're free? I haven't seen you for so many years. Now I have to come to you personally. I'm ashamed." Old Man Wei waved his hand repeatedly. "Don't play dumb. Tonight, let's drink until we're drunk," Supreme Beast said. "Okay." Old Man Wei laughed heartily. He looked at the two and said, "Old Man Yi has already arrived. You can go up by yourselves." "Okay." The two nodded and stepped into the Nine Heavens Palace. Soon, more figures arrived at the Nine Heavens Palace. These people were now famous figures in the ancient world. For example, Ice Emperor, Feather Emperor, and various divine generals. Among them was another teacher of Shengguanqiu, the pavilion master of the treasure house in the northern region. This pavilion master was also an old friend of Qin Feiyang and the others. In the past, he had been of great help to Qin Feiyang and the others. In addition, there were also the pavilion masters of the treasure house in the eastern tomb, the western desert, and the southern wilderness, as well as the giants of the heavenly cloud mountain. Huh, aren't we the first to arrive? Accompanied by loud laughter, another group of people arrived. These people were all familiar faces. Feng Daji, Fan Yunzhang, Wang Daoyuan, Li Changhe, Wang Qi, Lei Bing, Jiang Dafei, Li Chang, and so on. In the past, some of them were Qin Feiyang's opponents, some were the dragon's minions, but in the end, they all became Qin Feiyang's subordinates. For this continent, for billions of people, they fought a bloody battle with the dragons. But at that time, they all chose to stay in the ancient world. Especially Li Chang and Feng Daji. Back then, Feng Daji was ordered to guard the inland sea, and Li Chang was one of the dragon's men of sacrifice. They had worked hard for the dragons for many years, which made them feel very ashamed, so they wanted to stay in the ancient world to make up for the sins they had committed in the past. Of course, Qin Feiyang also respected their existence. All these years had passed. Li Chang and Feng Daji had both done their best for the human sovereign palace and the people of the ancient world, making great contributions. Looking at these familiar faces, Elder Wei chuckled and said, "You are not the first. The first is Yi Zhong." As expected. Old Master is more anxious than us. Wang Daoyuan laughed and was in a good mood. Then you guys go up first. Elder Wei smiled. Go up? The group of people looked up at the ninth heaven palace, looking a little hesitant. Li Changhe asked, "Where's the young master?" The so-called young master was Qin Feiyang. He hasn't arrived yet. Elder Wei said. The group of people looked at each other, then looked at Elder Wei and said, "In that case, we'll wait for him here with you." When Elder Wei heard that, he didn't say much, but he took a deep look at the group of people. Because he could understand how these people felt at the moment. These people were all Qin Feiyang's old subordinates, and it was also because Qin Feiyang gave them a chance to turn over a new leaf that they could have today's achievements. Therefore, even though Qin Feiyang had left for many years, they had always been grateful in their hearts. Whoosh! After a while, another figure broke through the air and arrived. It was a young man who looked quite extraordinary and had an extremely powerful aura. This person landed on the top of the mountain and looked at Elder Wei, Wang Daoyuan, and the group. He pretended to pinch his fingers and bared his teeth, saying, "I've calculated with my fingers that you must be waiting for Qin Feiyang here." When the group of people heard that, the corners of their mouths couldn't help but twitch. Wasn't this obvious? Did he need to pinch his fingers to calculate? You've calculated it correctly, haven't you? Don't you admire me very much? This person was Li Xiaofei, Lu Xingyang's disciple. Get lost. No, I'm just passing by. Li Changhe was speechless. Huh, you're just jealous of my talent. Li Xiaofei raised his head and laughed, then rushed into the ninth heaven palace without looking back. This bastard boy. He's obviously very talented and capable, but he's always fooling around outside. Wang Daoyuan shook his head, looking as if he expected better from him. Fooling around? Elder Wei was suspicious. Yes. Originally, Elder Yi wanted him to go to the Human Emperor Palace and be the Grand Hall Master of the Law Enforcement Hall, but guess what he said? He said that being the Grand Hall Master was a waste of his time. Wang Daoyuan looked helpless. Elder Wei smiled bitterly. Were all the young people of this generation so indifferent to fame and fortune? But this boy's talent is really amazing. Now, not only has he broken through to the inextinguishable realm, but he has also comprehended 3 laws. If he can stay in the Human Emperor Palace, he will definitely have brilliant achievements. Li Changhe shook his head regretfully. The others nodded one after another. The disciples taught by Sunlight Emperor were indeed extraordinary, After a while, Wang Yu also brought Qin Li and the others to the ninth heaven palace. Facing Elder Wei, Li Changhe, and the others, whether it was Wang Yu, or Qin Li and the others, they were all very respectful. As Qin Feiyang's trusted subordinates, Li Changhe and the others already knew the identity of Qin Li and the others. Have you gotten used to the human emperor palace after all these years? Wang Daoyuan asked with a smile. Isn't it the same everywhere? But you guys, seeing my big brother come back, are you very nervous? Qin Xian grimaced. Nervous? Why are we nervous? The group was puzzled. He's your boss, aren't you nervous? Qin Xian asked. Brat. Do you really think your big brother is a tiger? Let me tell you, your big brother is indeed cruel to his enemies, but he has always been kind to the people around him. Let's talk about it later. We haven't done anything wrong in the ancient world all these years, what are we afraid of? The group shook their heads and laughed. You haven't done anything wrong? Big brother Li Chang, I heard that you've married a few wives over the years. Can you handle so many? And Wang Daoyuan, I heard that you seem to have taken a fancy to the top girl of the Jade Moon House, I think she's called Xiao Yun, and you often go to her in the middle of the night. Qin Xian chuckled as he continued to reveal the shocking information about them. Cough, cough. The few of them looked embarrassed and said angrily, Brat, can't you pay attention to the situation when you speak? Can't you see that there are so many juniors here? Okay. Qin Xian nodded and looked at the disciples of the Nine Heavens Palace. He smiled and said, I'm just joking, don't take it seriously. The disciples looked at each other with strange expressions. Then, they nodded at Qin Xian as if they understood. Actually, I can understand you guys. After all, you guys have been fighting for the ancient world. Now that you finally have some free time, you definitely want to relax. However, you still have to control yourself to avoid exhausting your body. After all, you're not young anymore. Qin Xian bared his teeth, causing the surrounding crowd to burst into laughter. Brat, I'll teach you a lesson. Wang Daoyuan gnashed his teeth and sent a slap over. Qin Xian quickly fled, flying back to the Nine Heavens Palace. He roared without looking back, Big brother Wang, remember to call me along the next time you go to the Jade Moon House. I want to go and broaden my horizons. Wang Daoyuan's face darkened, and his mouth twitched. How could there be such an unreliable brat? How could they face others in the future? When Wang Yu, Qin Li, and the others saw this scene, they could not help smiling bitterly. Before his identity was exposed, Qin Xian had kept a low profile and restrained himself. Now that his identity was exposed, he was like a wild horse that had escaped its reins, revealing his true nature. End of this chapter. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.